Summoned from Earth into the fantasy realm of Arsalan, Archmage Kim Jinwoo commands overwhelming magical power. Yet despite reaching the pinnacle of supreme archmagic, our boy can only let out a heavy sigh as he faces the apocalyptic nightmare destroying this world. A catastrophic force known as the erosion of ruin is systematically devouring the land. Monstrous black tendrils surge forward without stopping, swallowing ancient kingdoms whole until nearly 90% of Arsalan has been completely wiped from the map. The massive mana barrier Jinwoo engineered remains the only wall protecting the surviving realm, but the rare mana stones fueling the barrier are almost drained. In 3 years at best, the shield will collapse, allowing endless hordes of bloodthirsty monsters to surge in and slaughter every living creature. As the immortal Archmage walks through the forest, his high elf disciple Tyrese greets him with a list of grand titles. Jinwoo dryly cuts her off, reminding her that lofty names mean nothing when the world is crashing toward an inevitable bad ending. After Tyrese scolds him for wandering near the deadly boundary, she delivers urgent news. The Royal Council has issued an emergency draft order for him while he was in seclusion. They are completely out of options, and Jinwoo is the only warrior who can survive inside the eroded lands. The native people of Arsalan cannot withstand the corruption, as the dark blight eventually shatters their very souls. But because Jinwoo was summoned from Earth, he possesses complete immunity to the erosion. Even better, he can absorb the corrupt power directly, converting the deadly poison into pure soul energy to make himself even stronger. Facing an impossible war alone, Jinwoo dryly admits he would need an army 1,000,000 strong just to hold the front line. Tyrese agrees that only legendary heroes could withstand the soul-shattering corruption, then confirms he is skipping the royal summons while warning him not to abuse his body resurrection magic. The high elf cheekily threatens to rebuild his next vessel into a handsome pretty boy or a pretty girl if he perishes out in the eroded zone, leaving the exhausted Archmage shaking his head at her hopeless taste as she finally leaves him in peace. Left alone, our boy reflects on his grueling life. From surviving endless overtime back on Earth to endlessly slaughtering dark beasts and founding the magic tower in Arsalan, he realizes he has never stopped grinding for a single day. Staring out at the massive wall of corruption, Jinwoo knows the magic barrier will inevitably shatter in 3 short years once its mana stones burn out. Overwhelmed by the endless burden of saving a doomed realm, he lets out a quiet sigh and decides to cast everything aside and finally rest. The instant he surrenders his heavy burden, a mysterious sphere of brilliant light sparks directly inside his hand. Before he can even react, divine energy violently detonates into a sky-piercing pillar, shattering the surrounding terrain and hurling massive boulders into the sky. Surrounded by a roaring tempest of divine power, Jinwoo feels absolute authority surging through every fiber of his being. By completely giving up on his endless struggle, he has unlocked the ultimate cosmic breakthrough, transcending mortal limits to awaken as a true transcendent. Our boy can barely believe his own eyes. After spending agonizing decades grinding endlessly for an ultimate magical breakthrough, reaching supreme transcendence required nothing more than surrendering his heavy mental burdens and completely emptying his mind. Testing his godlike new authority, Jinwoo summons a swirling cosmic vortex known as the Gate of the Soul. Ancient system windows reveal this permanent gateway links directly to his soul's homeland, allowing him to cast magic across dimensions and project his spirit form beyond physical boundaries. Without a single second of hesitation, our bold Archmage leaps straight into the roaring vortex, triggering a sky-shattering detonation of brilliant divine light as he tears clean through the dimensional fabric. The massive spatial rift ruptures directly in the sky above a bustling modern metropolis. Down on the busy city streets below, unsuspecting pedestrians stop and gaze up in confusion, completely unaware that a supreme transcendent force has just descended upon Earth. Hovering high over the Seoul skyline, Jinwoo discovers a mind-boggling temporal anomaly. Even though he spent over a full century grinding away in Arsalan, time back on Earth barely moved at all, leaving modern smartphones and urban sites practically untouched. Rushing directly toward his former neighborhood, Jinwoo finds his old home completely demolished and replaced by unrecognizable corporate skyscrapers. Every single record of Kim Jinwoo's earthly existence has been systematically wiped, leaving him feeling like an erased ghost in his own homeland. To make matters worse, Earth's atmospheric mana is so dangerously thin that his spirit form will dissolve if he lingers out in the open sky. Needing to locate an empty human vessel immediately, our boy suddenly catches a sharp spiritual resonance emanating from a nearby mansion. Tracing a sharp spiritual resonance, our transcendent Archmage slips straight through the window of a private luxury mansion. Inside a high-tech medical suite, he finds a young man lying motionless on a hospital bed, surrounded by frantic life support equipment. Grieving family members weep in total despair as the head doctor delivers the devastating news. Medical science has completely failed. The heartbroken Osung chairman screams out in anguish, begging his dying grandson not to leave him behind. Inspecting the dying youth, Jinwoo realizes this comatose patient is Lee Jinwoo, the genius youngest grandson of Korea's top conglomerate, Osung Group. Despite earning multiple doctorates overseas, his frail body has completely given out under a mysterious, fatal illness. Sensing the vessel, our translucent hero notes that the boy's original soul has already departed, leaving an empty shell that will stop breathing within hours. With their names virtually identical and his own spirit rapidly dissolving in Earth's thin mana, Jinwoo prepares to claim the body. Channeling supreme transcendent authority, the Archmage plunges directly into the unconscious form. Swirling currents of brilliant divine mana instantly flood the boy's bloodstream, repairing broken pathways and forcefully restarting his failing organs. A blinding aura of celestial magic envelopes the entire bed, shocking the surrounding doctors as high-density soul energy neutralizes every trace of the lethal corruption inside the vessel. Without warning, Lee Jinwoo's eye snaps open with razor-sharp intensity. Defying all medical logic, our boy sits up straight on the bed, leaving his weeping relatives completely frozen in absolute shock as he calmly confirms the possession was a complete success. The instant the young master opens his eyes, the room erupts into complete pandemonium. Overcome with emotion, the weeping chairman tackles his resurrected grandson into a desperate hug, while the rest of the family swarms the bed in absolute jubilation. Escaping the overwhelming crowd, our boy collapses onto his massive luxury bed to collect his thoughts. Surrounded by unthinkable wealth and a loving family, living out a peaceful life as a spoiled heir actually sounds like a dream. But reality quickly crashes back in. Beyond the spatial rift, his high elf disciple and the realm of Arsalan remain locked in a desperate struggle against endless swarms of demonic corruption that threaten to wipe them out completely. Brainstorming tactical solutions, the former Archmage ponders if modern Earth military force could turn the tide. Yet even tanks or nuclear strikes cannot stop the infinite horde unless someone penetrates deep enough to obliterate the core itself. Realizing conventional warfare is completely hopeless, our exhausted hero grabs a handheld gaming console off the nightstand to clear his stressed mind, powering up a title from his past life as a veteran game director. As the screen lights up with Legend of Dragon 7, he recalls the classic RPG storyline where a lone warrior recruits powerful companions across the realm to unite against apocalyptic evil and save the world. That simple gameplay mechanic sparks a brilliant strategic breakthrough. If one Archmage cannot stop the apocalypse alone, what if he brings millions of eager Earth gamers into Arsalan to fight the monsters for him? Staring at the hero summoning prompt on screen, realization hits our boy like a lightning bolt. Since Earthlings are immune to the corruption, he can use his transcendent portal to summon millions of unsuspecting players into Arsalan under the guise of an ultimate VR game. Dropping the console, he sets his master plan in motion, summoning Earth's greatest hero. To save Arsalan from total annihilation, our boy hatches a wild, ambitious scheme. Using the mystical Gate of Souls, he plans to summon Earthlings, trick them into believing this dark realm is just an immersive game, and let them purge the deadly erosion. As a former game developer turned Archmage, and now the pampered youngest grandson of South Korea's wealthiest conglomerate family, he possesses endless cash and 3 short years before total world destruction to bring this project to life. Back at the mansion during a lavish family feast, the doting chairman practically begs his favorite grandson to name whatever he wants. Jinwoo grins wide, seizing the perfect moment to reveal his next big ambition. The patriarch drops his fork in absolute horror. Terrified, the kid plans to return to the ruthless studying that nearly killed him. But our mastermind quickly sets him straight. He simply wants to build a video game. The word hangs in the air like a thunderclap, sending shockwaves straight across the dining table. Trembling under the intense atmosphere, the chairman nervously asks if he really means those noisy little electronic toys. Instead of rejecting the request, the old tycoon breaks down in emotional tears and gives a glowing thumbs up. The entire family instantly joins the celebration, overjoyed that he finally picked a normal, healthy hobby. Wiping his eyes, the overjoyed chairman immediately asks his relatives if their conglomerate owns a gaming subsidiary. Upon learning about a struggling company called FS Games, he hands over the entire studio on the spot as a hospital discharge gift. Securing a failing subsidiary is the ultimate strategic maneuver for our mastermind. Armed with full corporate backing and unlimited family wealth, Jinwoo bows respectfully to his grandfather, fully prepared to weaponize this company to build his realm-saving game. Shifting his consciousness back across dimensions, the Archmage seamlessly reclaims his original body high inside the magic tower. Meanwhile, back on Earth, an automated spell keeps his younger self playing handheld games like a remote-controlled puppet, maintaining a flawless cover story. With both operational fronts firmly secured, the little general steps off his throne to draft the ultimate game script. He marches straight into the tower's grand library, where enchanted books drift through the air above endless stacks of ancient lore. He catches High Elf Tia completely off guard, sneaking right behind Arsilin's legendary storyteller and nearly giving her a heart attack. The startled elf clutches her chest and scolds him fiercely for sneaking around while she tries to regain her composure. Tia explains she is gathering every story in the realm into a single grand collection, hoping to give suffering civilians a brief escape from reality. Jinwoo praises her compassionate heart, recognizing that her narrative genius is the exact piece he needs to complete his master plan. Pulling up a chair, our strategist lays out a vital tactical dilemma. How do you force an uncaring, pleasure-seeking outsider with zero ties to this world to fight desperately for its survival? Tia quickly analyzes the scenario, pointing out that to manipulate such a chaotic soul, you must first give him a sense of belonging. High Elf Tia lays out a ruthlessly dark story concept, proposing to grant clueless players a taste of pure joy before ripping their beloved companions away right before their eyes. She eagerly anticipates the overwhelming heartbreak, knowing tragedy breeds unmatched motivation. Cackling like a supervillain as her quill flies across the parchment, she suggests butchering respected mentors who sacrifice themselves to save the hero. Jinwoo watches with a satisfied grin, realizing her dark narrative brilliance is the exact weapon his master plan requires. Because love blinds people and revenge drives them into battle, emotional investment is his primary tactic. Once Earthlings become deeply attached to this world's characters, loss and regret will force them to fight the deadly erosion entirely on their own. Snapping the unhinged author back to reality, our mastermind drops a staggering bombshell. He offers her a corporate role where her writing won't just reach local readers, but tens or even hundreds of millions of souls across dimensions, leaving the elf trembling in total shock. Driven completely mad by the dream of an endless audience begging for her next chapter, the storyteller slams onto the desk right in front of him. With wild, bloodshot eyes, she promises to surrender her mind, body, and soul if he makes that dream reality. With her total cooperation locked down, the little general outlines the Phase 1 deployment. A 3,000-player beta test will spawn directly inside the eroding town of Eben, using its evacuation crisis as the tutorial zone to force Earthlings straight into battle against the monsters. Leaving the manic elf completely absorbed in her tragic world-building, our strategist plans his next strategic maneuver. Having Tia weave real Arsilan lore into the game narrative will dramatically accelerate development, letting him prepare the master proposal for FS Games. However, paper proposals alone won't convince skeptical Earth developers that full-dive VR technology actually exists. Since the Gate of Souls can currently only be used once, our mastermind realizes he must record an undeniable live-action demo video before revealing the project. To recruit his live-action actors, the 9-year-old menace activates his magic comms to contact his loyal vassal Hasman. He commands the Baron to immediately bring Priest Halen and Knight Commander Heine along for a vital mission to save Arsilan. Crossing space in an instant, the Archmage materializes directly inside the grand courtyard of Rainsford Castle amidst a magnificent vortex of blue mana, fully prepared to direct his newly assembled cast. His elite subordinates immediately salute his arrival with total reverence. Baron Hasman Agas, the tireless guardian beloved by every citizen, alongside Priest Hallen, the intense former Pope of Light, passionately report their faithful service to their master. As the two wildly enthusiastic old men uncomfortably crowd right into his face, Knight Commander Heine steps forward with absolute resolve, shining with devotion as she pledges her life to save Arsilan. Evaluating his lineup, Jinwoo realizes the two terrifying old veterans look far too unhinged to pass as respected heroic mentors for Earthlings. But eyeing the beautiful Knight Commander, our mastermind smirks as a brilliant new tactical script forms in his mind. Our mastermind hands dark magic robes to Baron Hasman and the former Pope, forcing the two pious veterans into villainous dark priest disguises. Despite Priest Halon weeping in utter terror over committing pure blasphemy, Jinwoo grins wide and declares their terrifying new look absolute perfection for his live-action video. Turning his attention to Knight Commander Heine, the little general decides her full plate armor is far too practical. To truly captivate Earth gamers, a female knight requires a completely different design philosophy. Ignoring her sheer disbelief and intense panic, our boy corners the reluctant Knight Commander. Leaning in close with glowing eyes, he forcefully commands her to wear the skimpy outfit for the noble cause of saving Arsilan. Blushing with intense embarrassment, Hina timidly steps out wearing the scandalously light armor. The dramatic reveal leaves our mastermind completely stunned, instantly approving her gorgeous game-ready design for the upcoming demo recording. When the confused Knight Commander questions if this tiny outfit offers any real protection, Jinwoo deadpans the ultimate Earth gaming logic. The more skin a female warrior reveals, the higher her defense stats grow. Surveying his dark priest and revealing knight, the strategist realizes he needs a delicate saintess for Hina to protect in the battle scene. But remembering Saintess Tabessa is actually a 200-year-old grandmother, he quickly scraps that terrifying casting idea. Suddenly, joyful laughter echoes across the courtyard as refugee children sprint past their panicked demon guardian. Spotting their legendary savior standing nearby, the kids happily rush forward with open arms, giving our mastermind the perfect final piece for his trailer. Exhausted from chasing after the runaway kids, Succubus Aerie frantically apologizes to her master. But as our boy inspects the demon, an even wilder stroke of creative genius strikes his mind. He dramatically points at Aerie and assigns her as their heroic saintess. The demon and dark priests screech in total horror over pure blasphemy, but our general knows a succubus saintess is absolute marketing gold. Clapping his hands together, the mastermind gathers his bizarre cast of dark priests, a battle-ready knight, and a demon saintess. Smiling wide, our boy prepares to direct the ultimate live-action trailer to save two worlds. Inside the grand sanctuary of the Magic Tower, all 130 disciples assemble before the Archmage of Rainsword. Kneeling in absolute reverence, the devout followers bow down to their legendary master, unaware of the outrageous strategy he is about to unleash. Surrounding Lee Jinwoo, his high-ranking inner circle stands dressed in heavy combat armor. When his disciples question the absurd outfits, the former game director casually insists this is all just mandatory roleplay to save the crumbling realm of Arcillon. Dropping a massive bombshell on the hall, our boy reveals he has officially awakened, gaining absolute authority over the Gate of Souls. Through this dimensional portal, he will summon uncorrupted heroes from Earth who possess total immunity against the deadly erosion threatening their world. Handing over a raw mana recording, the master orders his disciples to act as cinematic game developers. They must heavily edit the footage, adding dramatic lighting, sprawling skeleton armies, and a terrifying Demon King atmosphere to craft the ultimate promotional trailer. Then comes the ultimate crunch mandate. They must compress the entire high-definition video into a single tiny mana stone. The mages freeze in sheer terror at the impossible task, but Jinwoo merely smirks, knowing a true wizard's job is making the impossible happen. Looking at their uniform blue robes, the little general hilariously rebrands his traumatized disciples as magic demons, modeled after Earth's wish-granting cat plushie. Left with no room to protest, the weeping mages reluctantly accept their new identity as magical prop designers. With the groundwork for the ultimate fake game successfully laid out in Arcillon, the stage is set for conquest as the narrative shifts back to the modern metropolis of Seoul. Back on the bustling streets of modern Seoul, our boy steps back into reality carrying a high-stakes secret weapon locked tightly inside his briefcase. Thanks to the relentless, unpaid crunch time forced onto his traumatized magic demons back in Arcillon, the impossibly high-definition promotional trailer has been successfully edited and compressed down into a single tiny mana stone. The moment he steps out, he is greeted by Kim Han-soo, a hulking secretary assigned directly by the corporate chairman to assist him. Without wasting a single second on useless small talk, the massive aide eagerly escorts the newly appointed CEO straight inside the skyscraper to face his newly inherited workforce. Inside the executive conference room, head of development Han Yongsun frantically reviews his new boss's terrifying background profile. Staring at Lee Jinwoo's insane record of earning 5 separate PhDs before reaching his mid-20s, the stressed developer sweats bullets, desperate to understand why an elite prodigy would buy out a dying, bankrupt game company. Suddenly, the heavy boardroom doors slam open as the legendary game director makes his dramatic entrance into the room. Stepping into the light alongside his towering bodyguard, our boy radiates an untouchable executive aura that instantly paralyzes every employee in the room. The sheer weight of his pressure completely shatters the veteran developer's focus as Jinwoo smoothly takes his place at the head of the table. Completely skipping standard corporate pleasantries, the little general asserts absolute dominance over the room before anyone can even think to question his authority. Interlocking his fingers with a dark, confident smirk, Lee Jinwoo flips open the financial reports and brutally lays out their dire situation. Pointing directly to their failed 30 billion won flagship project, he prepares to hijack this broken studio and execute his insane multi-dimensional gaming scam. When head developer Han Yong-sin confesses that their entire team defected to a rival company, he braces for immediate termination. But Lee Jin-woo simply smirks at their ruin, declaring that a total collapse is the perfect opportunity to rebuild everything from absolute scratch. Passing around the proposal for Project Arcillon, our boy unveils his master blueprint for a revolutionary virtual reality game. The remaining developers scan the proposal in disbelief, instantly hooked by the rich medieval lore and shockingly detailed world design. When the lead developer warns that VR headsets are niche and risky, the little general confidently guarantees the game will sell out faster than production lines can keep up. Slamming his hand down, he vows to flip the entire global gaming industry upside down. Standing tall with untouchable executive aura, Jin-woo decides that seeing is believing and asks for the largest room available. Learning about an empty motion capture studio on site, he immediately commands every employee in the company to assemble inside. Dozens of bewildered staff members quickly pack into the cavernous motion capture room, murmuring with skepticism. Sweating with anxiety, the employees openly question if their insanely credentialed new director is a visionary genius or just another eccentric corporate scammer. Ignoring their doubts, Jin-woo coolly orders the room to be completely blacked out. The moment the light switch flips and pitch darkness engulfs the room, the former Archmage kneels on the floor, instructing the crowd to take several steps back. Placing his hand onto the mysterious black cube on the floor, our boy unleashes the compressed mana stone inside. In an instant, a blinding burst of magical energy radiates through the room, preparing to project real Arcillon footage right before their eyes. Blinding mana surges violently from the crystal cube, rapidly expanding into a massive glowing magic circle. In a flash of light, the motion capture studio vanishes, instantly transforming the floor into a field of vibrant green grass right beneath the terrified employees' feet. Before anyone can comprehend what is happening, a colossal red dragon drops from the heavens. Roaring violently into the open sky, the terrifying monster dives straight toward the crowd, sending the helpless developers scrambling for cover in absolute panic. As the entire team loses their minds and prepares to run for their lives, Lee Jin-woo coolly steps out into the open field. Smirking at their sheer terror, the former Archmage casually reassures his staff that the deadly dragon is merely a full immersion hologram. Sprawling across the massive room, the magic stone projects the world of Arcillon in breathtaking high definition. From soaring wyverns and floating grand castles to ancient stone golems roaming the fields, the stunning fantasy realm leaves the veteran developers completely speechless. With the stunned head developer stammering in total disbelief at the impossible tech, the rest of the crew stands spellbound. Having successfully tricked his entire company into believing this is a next-gen VR game, our boy snaps his fingers to trigger the cinematic climax. In an instant, the peaceful blue skies fade into a pitch-black nightmare. A sinister eclipse blots out the sun, drenching the land in a terrifying blood-red glow as the trailer prepares to unleash the horrors of the erosion. A terrifying wave of skeletal monstrosities erupts from the scorched earth as evil necromancers unleash their dark incantations. Laughing maniacally into the red sky, the Dark Lords command their undead legion to surge forward and devour every mortal standing in their path. Absolute pandemonium erupts through the room as the traumatized developers scream in terror, fleeing the Bone Army in sheer panic. With no exit in sight, the frantic staff members brace for impact until a fearless defender steps forward to shield them from the carnage. Diving headfirst into the fray, a fierce female knight launches a devastating aerial assault into the undead horde. Sweeping across the battlefield, her blade cuts through heavy armor and shatters skeletal warriors like glass, turning the tide in one brilliant lethal slash. Before the surviving monsters can regroup, a celestial saintess descends in glowing white robes to bestow her divine protection. Unleashing blinding pillars of holy magic, her light purges the dark corruption, obliterating every last undead creature and saving the kingdom from total destruction. The motion capture studio erupts into wild cheers, with the developers completely entranced by the heroic knight and the saintess's divine blessing. Watching his staff lose their minds over the insane visuals, our boy stands back with a sinister smirk. With every single employee fully brainwashed into believing this is next-gen gaming tech, Phase 1 of the ultimate multidimensional scam is officially complete. Our game director mastermind watches the battlefield with total composure. Every single detail of his grand design is proceeding exactly according to plan, and now he is ready to trigger the climax of this trial. The skeletal necromancer just cackles at the incoming humans, treating them as nothing more than fresh test subjects for his dark magic. He commands his minions to devour every last bite, sending a screaming legion of bone warriors charging straight into combat. The red-haired warrior stands resolute beside the saintess, Channeling divine light, she calls on the entire crowd to raise their hands and pool their strength. Completely bought into the game narrative, the players eagerly raise their hands in unison, feeding their energy directly into her strike. Surging with blinding holy lightning, her sword ignites with immense destructive power. She leaps into the vanguard with a furious war cry, while the hyped-up players shout in unison behind her, roaring for the glory of Arcillon. She delivers a lethal mid-air strike that cleaves through the horde. Undead soldiers are pulverized into dust instantly, leaving the skeletal necromancer trapped in terror as holy flames engulf his frail body. A massive explosion of light detonates across the front lines, wiping out the Dark Army. Crashed like trash onto the burnt ground, the necromancer writhes in agony, his spell completely shattered. Desperate and broken, the dying lich reaches out to the floating shadow above, begging the Lord of Erosion to save his life. But the hooded entity has zero tolerance for failures. With a cold snap of his fingers, dark purple flames consume the ruined commander without a second thought. The ruthless Dark Lord cold-bloodedly executes his own fallen necromancer without an ounce of mercy. Burning his loyal commander to ashes in purple hellfire, the ominous entity turns his terrifying gaze right toward the surviving humans, declaring that their turn has finally come. Violent purple fire surges across the battlefield, engulfing the horrified crowd in dark energy. Overwhelmed by absolute terror, the helpless test subjects scramble in panic and scream for their lives, convinced that total annihilation is upon them. Just as death seems absolute, the apocalyptic nightmare abruptly snaps back to reality. The breathless developers collapse onto the cold office floor, clutching their heads in utter disbelief as they realize they survived the terrifying trial and are safely back home. Our mastermind steps up with a smug grin, casually asking for their thoughts on his concept video. Instantly, the bewildered developers swarm him in a frenzy, shouting in disbelief over the impossible virtual reality experience and begging to see the Saintess again. Adjusting his glasses, the lead developer apologizes for losing his composure, warning that revealing true virtual reality could explode into the gaming world's biggest secret. But Jinwoo smirks with total confidence, knowing outside skeptics will never believe the truth without seeing it. When Jinwoo offers them a spot on his crew, the energized developers pledge their absolute loyalty, swearing to follow him anywhere. He commands them to discard traditional game design, revealing that his custom engine and AI will help them conquer global culture. Pumping his fist into the air, our ambitious director rallies his team to step up and make history together. Hyped to the absolute limit, every single developer thrusts their fists skyward, roaring in unison as they unite under his grand design. Back inside his private laboratory, our mastermind smirks while monitoring the massive internet uproar surrounding the leaked virtual reality game. Just as expected, public skepticism is at an all-time high, but the calm director remains unbothered when his grandfather calls him directly to address the chaos. Outraged by the online insults aimed at his grandson, the wealthy chairman offers to unleash his corporate legal team and punish the slanderous trolls. But Jinwoo casually laughs off the hate, viewing the doubt as free publicity, before his grandfather pivots to ask how project development is actually coming along. Confidently holding up his completed VR headset prototype, Jinwoo reassures him that everything is progressing ahead of schedule. But with a sharp glint in his eye, our little general drops a surprise reveal, announcing that he just finished programming a custom fishing skill into the system. The old man immediately lights up, bragging about his legendary days battling blue marlins and landing sharks as big as houses. However, when Jinwoo invites him out for a real fishing trip, severe back pain forces him to decline, prompting our director to grab his headset and bring the ocean directly to him. Arriving at his grandfather's estate later that night, Jinwoo presents the sleek blue prototype visor. The veteran executive examines the lightweight gear with deep curiosity before settling back comfortably into his armchair, as our boy guides him to put on the device. Though he initially planned to just humor his grandson, the chairman is thoroughly impressed by ergonomic craftsmanship superior to top tech conglomerates. Tapping the side button to initiate full dive-in, he prepares himself as Jinwoo smirks, officially welcoming him into the world of Arcillon. A blinding flash of light slowly dissolves as the chairman opens his eyes, staring down at his broad, youthful hands in total shock. Finding himself standing in the middle of a vibrant, unfamiliar forest, the old executive looks around in utter bewilderment. Jinwoo steps into view to greet his stunned grandfather, calmly confirming that they have officially logged into the virtual realm of Arcillon. Holding up a mirror, our mastermind reveals he reconstructed the chairman's avatar to match his peak 40-year-old self, leaving the wealthy executive completely speechless. Ecstatic that his crippling back pain has completely vanished, the old man touches his face and flexes his prime physique in awe. When he aggressively presses for details on how such impossible tech was developed, Jinwoo smoothly dodges suspicion with a cover story about formulating game concepts during his coma. Shaking off the questions, our little general grabs his grandfather's hand and pulls him along to begin the true test. Reaching their destination seconds later, they stand before the scenic shores of a crystal-clear mountain lake glistening beneath the bright fantasy sun. Demonstrating his absolute control over the realm, Jinwoo casually summons a blue spatial portal out of thin air right before the old man's eyes. He pulls out a comfortable armchair alongside a pristine fishing rod, handing over the gear while explaining how easy magic is to operate. Testing the weight, the veteran angler marvels at how perfectly the rod mirrors his favorite real-world equipment. Reinvigorated by his restored body, the old executive grins with childlike thrill and unleashes a ferocious overhead cast, sending the hook splashing cleanly into the center of the lake. Instantly, the lake erupts as a massive strike bends the fishing rod to its absolute limit. But the veteran angler doesn't back down for a single second. Flexing his restored, muscular arms, the old executive channels raw physical power, refusing to let the underwater leviathan escape his grasp. With a ferocious roar, he yanks the line with overwhelming force, launching a giant blue scaled monster fish straight out of the water. The leviathan crashes onto the rocky shore with a colossal thud, leaving the lakeside shaking beneath its massive weight. Staring at the titanic catch in total bewilderment, the old man can barely process his own raw strength. Jinwoo eagerly applauds the legendary catch, while his grandfather turns his gaze down toward his youthful, pulse-pounding hands in sheer disbelief. He had long accepted the relentless march of time and physical decay, but now wild vitality surges through his body. Bursting into hysterical, triumphant laughter, the rejuvenated executive roars with childlike thrill, feeling more alive than he has in decades. Watching his grandfather celebrate with unbridled joy, our mastermind smirks with deep satisfaction. Summoning Earthlings to defend Arsalan is his primary grand design, but giving his family a second youth is an incredible bonus, prompting Jinwoo to offer to take a commemorative photo. Leaping directly onto the monster fish's back, the ecstatic chairman straddles the beast and flexes both arms while shouting at the top of his lungs. Jinwoo snaps the immortal shot as his grandfather roars in absolute triumph, completely captivated by the revolutionary power of Arsalan. Out in the quiet night forest, Chairman Lee devours his campfire meal in absolute disbelief, thrilled to actually taste food and feel full inside what he assumes is a hyper-realistic game. But their peaceful midnight feast is abruptly cut short as heavy footsteps rustle through the surrounding dark woods. Two local patrol scouts step out from the shadows, eyeing the uninvited guests with deep suspicion. When the chairman blithely dismisses them as basic game NPCs, the armed guards take immediate offense, declaring these strange intruders must be dragged directly before their lord for questioning. Before the scouts can make a single move, our former Archmage unleashes a suffocating, demonic aura that paralyzes both guards in absolute terror. Ordering them to scram before he gets angry, the panicked scouts run for their lives, leaving our boy to smoothly cover up his flex as a minor programming glitch. Thoroughly sold on the project's potential, Chairman Lee pledges the full financial power of the massive Oshang Group to back development. With Earth's corporate juggernaut handling all real-world logistics, Jinwoo secures the massive backing he needs to rapidly construct the beginner village and surrounding hunt regions. When Jinwoo tries to retrieve the connection headset for maintenance, the old chairman pulls out every dramatic trick in the book, shameless groaning about his failing health just to keep it. Unable to resist the old man's hilarious guilt trip, our boy relents and lets him keep his prize ticket to Arsalan. Back on Earth, the grand project accelerates rapidly inside Oseong's high-tech headquarters. Powered by unlimited corporate funding and guided by Tia's authentic world scenarios, the dev team rapidly masters the magic engine, refining essential quality-of-life features while constructing the core storyline. Meanwhile, the art department finalizes the visual designs for every major NPC, creating stunning high-grade character models like the legendary Prince Leon. The dev staff swoons over the gorgeous art, buzzing with wild anticipation to eventually step into Arsalan and meet their digital creations face to face. Inside the studio office, envious staff members corner Director Han, aggressively grilling him for pulling continuous all-nighters inside the test room. Suspecting he is selfishly hoarding access to the revolutionary virtual reality simulation just to play by himself, the frustrated developers demand to know why only higher-ups get to experience the game. Before the heated interrogation can escalate any further, Jinwoo walks into the room alongside corporate representatives to deliver game-changing news. The connection hardware has officially cleared every high-level stability test, granting final approval to initiate full-scale mass production. Hearing that their hard work is finally becoming physical reality, the room fills with overwhelming excitement. Director Han takes the floor to drop an even bigger announcement. FS Games will officially showcase Arcylon's saga at Ocean's massive Universe Unpacked launch event. Having endured months of bitter public insults, vicious online slander, and industry skepticism aimed at their company, the dev team explodes with raw emotion, ready to turn those insults into universal praise on the global stage. To reward his team's relentless dedication, Jinwoo guarantees top-of-the-line connection devices for every single employee and confirms that massive internal testing will commence immediately after the presentation. Thrilled by the incredible company perks and exclusive testing privileges, the entire workforce breaks into a passionate chant, roaring Jinwoo's name in absolute triumph. Right in the climax of their celebration, Jinwoo's phone vibrates furiously in his pocket. It turns out Chairman Lee is relentlessly spamming text messages, demanding the servers be opened immediately so he can spend his vacation in Arcylon. When the gaming-addicted old tycoon Tex threatens to personally storm the office, our boy hastily calls an early dismissal and flees the building. Sometime later, the narrative shifts directly to the sprawling venue hosting the Grand Universe Unpacked launch event. Blinding camera flashes pop relentlessly while swarms of reporters and eager tech enthusiasts flood the convention floor, captivated by high-grade character cosplayers and setting an electric atmosphere for FS Games' high-stakes presentation. On the bustling convention floor, heavy skepticism fills the room as tech reviewer Han Dole and surrounding reporters trash FS Games' unexpected appearance. Cynical critics openly mock their ambitious virtual reality pitch as a total scam, convinced that Ocean's outdated headset technology is guaranteed to crash and burn against established international rivals. Everyone expects another disastrous corporate failure. The main presenter takes the stage and officially introduces their special guest, bringing the CEO of FS Games directly into the spotlight. Adjusting his tie with total composure, Jinwoo steps out before the massive, roaring audience, instantly captivating the crowd who recognize him as Ocean's genius heir returned from the dead. The entire auditorium buzzes with intense, wild anticipation. Addressing the wild viral memes claiming he invented room-temperature superconductors and anti-gravity tech, our boy calmly plays along with the massive internet hype. But as the audience hangs on every word, the young CEO promises a presentation that will shatter all expectations, raising his hand with absolute authority to begin the spectacular show. In an explosive flash of light, a massive wall of blue ocean water surges directly over the audience, sending shockwaves of panic through the hall. Spectators scream in utter terror as water splashes all around them, while our former Archmage stands completely calm amidst the storm, narrating humanity's ancient conquest of the deep seas. The visual environment instantly transforms from howling desert sandstorms to freezing blizzard peaks right before their eyes. Reaching out with trembling hands, Han Dole catches falling snow on his fingertips, frozen in complete shock as he actually feels genuine biting cold and physical texture inside what should be a fake projection. Elevating the presentation to a breathtaking cosmic scale, Jinwoo floats high into deep space surrounded by glowing planets and orbital rings. He highlights how physical limitations have always trapped humanity on Earth, setting up the ultimate reveal for a legendary virtual domain where physical boundaries are destroyed forever. Asking the crowd if humanity was simply born too early for grand exploration, Jinwoo snaps his fingers to unleash the ultimate answer. An explosive surge of purple lightning tears across the auditorium, instantly blinding the panicked crowd as raw magic reshapes their entire world. A blood-red moon looms over jagged crimson mountain peaks as the presentation hall completely vanishes into dark shadows. In its place, hundreds of bewildered spectators find themselves standing directly upon the desolate, scorched wasteland of Arcylon, feeling the ominous heat and physical ground beneath their feet. Terrified screams echo across the plain as swarms of floating mascot creatures pop out of thin air, swooping down right beside stunned tech reviewers. While camera operators scramble in sheer panic, our former Archmage steps forward with a triumphant smirk, controlling the grand presentation with total mastery. Towering skeletal dragons roar alongside dark liches while high-grade heroic NPCs erupt into glowing, breathtaking visual projections. Standing high above the madness, Jinwoo officially introduces Arcylon's saga to the world, promising a fully immersive virtual domain that will destroy every physical limit of reality forever. Holding up a glowing Soul Link headband, our boy announces that early access begins in just 2 weeks. Ocean's store instantly opens pre-orders for a strictly limited run of 2,500 units, pricing each dedicated device at over 3 million won. Later at his apartment desk, tech reviewer Han Dole tracks the chaotic aftermath as online forums drown in furious scam accusations and toxic corporate slander. Yet despite the overwhelming cynicism, all 2,500 units sell out in seconds, forcing skeptical creators to secure headsets just to test the claims. With the early access countdown officially ticking down, Han Dole and his roommate sit in tense silence, contemplating the sheer absurdity of the situation. They are left waiting in deep suspense, wondering whether they are about to enter a legendary gaming paradise or witness a massive corporate lawsuit. Determined to capitalize on this world-changing shift, the tech reviewer vows to abandon ordinary hardware reviews and pivot his entire channel to cover Arcylon content. With the clock ticking down, the ultimate gaming race is about to begin. 2 weeks pass in an instant. High above Arcylon's vibrant starter lands, flying beasts cut through the clear skies while our former Archmage stands as alone in the forest with staff in hand. Smirking in triumph, Jinwoo prepares to unleash Earth's unsuspecting heroes upon his doomed world. Inside the city, the crew is relentlessly assembling a believable stage for the incoming Earthlings, but directing native locals proves to be a chaotic nightmare. The ruthless elf director screams at a timid tavern keeper, demanding explosive energy and slamming him onto an aggressive 6-meal daily diet to match his character design. Next in line is the blacksmith, who rehearses mocking players with brutal lines after deliberately shattering their weapons. Even with a 99% enhancement rate, rigged failures are a calculated psychological tactic, weaponizing high-stakes gambling addiction to keep players thoroughly hooked on the endless grind. Our boy Jinwoo arrives on the scene to inspect their operational state. The magic tower is fully prepared to manifest 10,000 avatar bodies simultaneously, but the severe deficit of mana stones poses a massive strategic bottleneck that could derail their entire anti-erosion campaign before it even starts. With purple corruption eating away at Arcylon, Jinwoo knows there is no reason to rush recklessly. Reclaiming lands consumed by erosion will be a methodical, ruthless campaign carried out alongside the first wave of summoned heroes. For the first time in years, genuine hope replaces fear across the city. Yet, one critical problem threatens their grand narrative. They lack a lead actor for Prince Leon. The story requires a peerless beauty to instantly captivate players, but every knight in the realm is a rough, battle-hardened veteran far removed from the divine hero described in the concept art. To forge an unforgettable hero that drives players to die for Arcylon, Prince Leon must be absolute perfection. Just as the team hits a complete dead end, our mastermind flashes a mischievous grin, eyeing a strikingly gorgeous blonde figure who steps directly into the courtyard. With no suitable actors in sight, the elf dollmaster proposes a dangerous workaround: forge a custom vessel based on concept art and let Jinwoo possess Prince Leon directly. Before our mastermind can even question her true motives, she flashes a wicked grin, announcing the body is already finished, and commands them to follow her to the workshop. Inside the subterranean gallery, rows of motionless avatar dolls stand like silent sentinels. From horned demons and winged maidens to armored beasts, every puppet represents another piece of military hardware for their staged war. Yet despite the tactical brilliant prep, Jinwoo finds the entire chamber unsettling. Her eccentric passion goes off the rails when she presents a customized toddler version of Jinwoo, built specifically for endless cuddling. Lil Bro rejects the absurdity instantly. He knows taking control of that mini-body means getting suffocated by her aggressive affection within 5 seconds flat. Stepping away from the weirdness, she leads them to a pedestal holding a throne shrouded in heavy crimson velvet. Proclaiming that she has created a divine form beyond human comprehension, she grabs the cloth and dramatically rips it away to reveal Prince Leon's true vessel. The sudden reveal unleashes a visual shockwave so intense it blows the ruthless elf director clean off her feet. She hits the floor hard, clutching her head while staring up with wide, trembling eyes. The divine aura radiating from the vessel leaves her thoroughly stunned and rendered speechless. The engineering behind this puppet is utterly terrifying. Built over a month of continuous labor, it features a skeleton carved from dragon bone, synthetic muscle fibers infused with high-density est, and battle gear crafted from dragon scales by 12 dwarf grandmasters. Hearing that she raided a dragon scales makes Jinwoo narrow his eyes in disbelief. With all the preparations completed, it is time for the moment of truth. Jinwoo grips his staff, settles into position, and activates his magic, initiating the soul transfer to test if his mind can synchronize with this god-tier combat body. Blinding blue lightning crackles across the subterranean gallery as Jinwoo channels his immense mana into the vessel. The overwhelming pressure blows his team backward, but as the energy stabilizes, divine blue eyes snap open. The soul synchronization is a flawless success, bringing Prince Leon to life. Meanwhile, back in Seoul, only 10 minutes remain before the official server launch of Arcylon Saga. Streamer Hey Bile flexes her new standard Soul Link device live to 3 million subscribers. Her chat immediately explodes with skepticism, accusing the mysterious game company of pulling off an elaborate scam. Ignoring the trolls, she straps on the futuristic visor, which projects her streaming chat window right before her eyes. The second the clock strikes 10, the visor lights up, displaying a blue alert confirming that server login is officially available. Determined to test whether the game is genuine or a fraud live on camera, she leans comfortably back into her streaming chair. With a tight grip on her device, she takes a deep breath and slams the login button. The instant she hits confirm, blinding light engulfs her room. Her consciousness is violently ripped out of her physical body, hurtling through a sensory warp stream until her shrieking voice echoes through a giant portal tearing open in another world. Inside Arcelen's magic tower, massive crystal pillars overload with raw magical energy. Seeing the dimensional conduit ignite, the frantic Archmage screams at his team to assume their positions immediately, announcing that the very first hero from Earth has finally landed. Rubbing her eyes, Hey Bile awakens floating in an endless cosmic space, feeling genuine physical weight as her feet touch down. Stuttering in shock, she yells to her live audience that full immersion virtual reality is real, triggering utter pandemonium across the global internet. Floating inside the Cosmic Soul lobby, Hey Bile marvels at the sleek holographic interface hovering directly before her eyes. The system presents 4 distinct playable races: human, elf, dwarf, and heavy-hitting orc, and she immediately selects the elf option. Driven to stand out on live stream, she eagerly manipulates her custom body sliders to enhance her avatar's proportions before finalizing her build. Blinding magical light crackles across the clearing as her boots touch down on the lush green grass of Arcelen. The instant her consciousness syncs with her new elf vessel, she squeals in pure delight, proudly flexing her altered physique and skipping through the forest, completely oblivious to the system debuffs penalizing her agility due to her extreme customization choices. Strolling down the sunlit woodland path toward the starter village visible through the trees, she gazes around in total awe at the impossible detail of this fantasy realm. Her chat explodes while she clutches her glowing cheeks in pure ecstasy, but right when she wonders where her main quest begins, a tall armored figure steps up quietly behind her. A heavily armored gauntlet extends past her shoulder, smoothly pointing out the exact direction of the beginner village of Eben. Surprised by the calm, commanding voice interrupting her stream, her heart drops into her chest, and her eyes dilate in sudden shock as she turns around to confront the mysterious warrior. Standing before her in all his glory is Jinwoo inside his god-tier Prince Leon avatar, bathed in bright sunlight and radiating a divine charisma that instantly spellbinds her. Softly offering to personally escort her into town, our mastermind flashes a peerless smile and introduces himself as Leon, officially executing the first step of his master strategy. Eben Village erupts into absolute chaos as hundreds of newly summoned Earthlings flood the starter zone, treating this dying world like the ultimate open-world game. Players cheer in celebration of game director Lee Jin-woo, form party groups on the fly, and even dismiss transmigrated Mirim warriors as extreme role-players. Navigating through the energetic crowd, a newly arrived elf player scans her floating system chat before spotting a local guard stationed at the wall. She casually walks up to ask for directions, completely unaware that the terrified guard is sweating profusely inside, desperately rehearsing his practiced lines so he does not ruin the disguise. Clearing his throat nervously, the guard forces a bright scripted smile and asks for her official name. She strikes a peace sign and registers under the handle Hey Bile, instantly receiving a system window that hilariously mocks her lack of agility due to her top-heavy physique while confirming her new nickname. Testing his immersion, Hey Bile asks if the guard is actually another player, but he mechanically repeats his greeting like a programmed NPC. Satisfied with the game's realism, she asks if he has any available quests, prompting the guard to point directly toward the Grand Adventurers Guild standing in the distance. While walking away, floating chat messages flood her vision as other players search for the handsome guy who escorted them into town. Hey Bile recalls how he quietly disappeared right at the entrance like a typical story NPC, assuming she will inevitably cross paths with him again as she completes main quests. High above the village, Jinwoo floats silently in the sky with staff in hand, pleased that his disguised avatar Leon left a lasting impression on the players. Igniting his spectral blue eyes to analyze her status, he confirms that all Earthlings carry the soul power necessary to fight back against Arcelen's erosion. Floating silently high above Ebent Village, Jinwoo ignites his spectral soul vision to analyze the vast horde of newly summoned Earthlings below. Although default system status windows hide latent traits, matching a player's path to their inner talent unlocks explosive growth potential. Most scan as basic E or D rank commoners, but a brilliant golden aura suddenly flares in the middle of town. Heir turns out to possess an extraordinary A-rank sociability trait, refined through years of real-world streaming experience. The Archmage mastermind immediately calculates her immense tactical potential on the battlefield. This power extends far beyond human interaction, allowing her to communicate directly with raw mana, divine energy, and elemental spirits to purify Arsalan's creeping erosion. Leaving the noisy starter plaza behind, Heir arrives at the majestic Ebent branch of the Adventurers Guild. She slowly pushes open the massive wooden entrance doors and steps inside the gilded, high-ceilinged hall, where a cheerful receptionist immediately calls out across the carpet to welcome the newly arrived hero to the reception desk. A drop-dead gorgeous elf receptionist named Tia greets her with a beaming, energetic smile. Utterly dazzled by the NPC's breathtaking visual design and realistic charm, Heir eagerly rushes to the front counter and signs up without hesitation, while her floating stream chat goes wild with excitement over the stunning NPC encounter. Swiftly writing her signature on the registration scroll, Heir officially earns Iron Rank status. Tia slides over a heavy sack packed with starter funds, an appraisal certificate, and an inventory subspace tattoo. When the beautiful receptionist affectionately pets her head like a cute pet, the streamer blushes in complete delight, fully immersed in the experience. Monitoring the situation from high in the sky, Jinwoo intercepts Tia's telepathic thoughts, uncovering her sinister, sadistic streak as she secretly craves to torment Heir until she drowns in tears. Our mastermind remains unfazed, well aware that the sadistic elf has no idea what unhinged chaos the veteran Earthling players will unleash upon her guild. Just as Tia wonders about the caliber of these summoned heroes, a terrifyingly hairy bare foot slams down onto the polished guild carpet with heavy force. The arrival of Ebent's ruthless veteran players is about to shatter the receptionist's peaceful morning into pure madness. Before Tia can process what is happening, a massive player rocking pink pigtails and white underwear crashes into the hall, demanding noodles and liquor. The dumbfounded receptionist stands frozen as unhinged gamers rampage through the guild hall, devouring request forms and complaining about a total lack of endgame content. Panicking, Tia telepathically reaches out to Jinwoo for backup, only for our ruthless mastermind to wish her good luck and abruptly hang up. To make matters far worse, a system alert pops up across every player's screen, revealing that flustering the guild receptionist awards an exclusive prankster title. The entire hall immediately erupts into a chaotic hunt to terrorize her for free achievements, leaving the poor elf slumped on the floor in total defeat. Clenching her fists in fury, Tia's angelic persona completely shatters into a terrifying sadistic grin. She resolves to endure all their unhinged, childish antics for one reason alone. She simply cannot wait to witness the glorious moment these overconfident fools break down in tears when real danger strikes. Meanwhile, back on Earth, complete chaos erupts as breaking news confirms Arsalan's saga is 100% real. The internet explodes with desperate apology streams from toxic creators who once slandered Lee Jinwoo, while international networks rush out dedicated news broadcasts to analyze the world-changing event. Inside elite corporate boardrooms, executives panic as they realize failing to secure a foothold in this new virtual frontier means permanent economic ruin. 1 week after launch, our legendary director casually steps into FS Games headquarters, warmly welcomed by an energized staff who view him as an absolute hero. Protest trucks line the streets outside pleading for SoulLink access, while frantic employees admit to switching off their personal phones just to dodge endless bribery attempts. Smiling calmly, our boy offers his hard-working crew some much-needed words of appreciation for surviving the madness. As the development team prepares to roll out 50,000 additional SoulLink headsets for pre-order, Jinwoo's sharp eyes lock onto the horizon. 50,000 Earthling heroes will supply the raw soul power required to launch his grand campaign and eradicate Arsalan's creeping erosion once and for all. Back at game headquarters, the development staff explodes with excitement over Lord Leon's massive popularity among the newly summoned Earthlings. Requests for main story updates and official character merchandise flood the office, with frantic employees pitching everything from keychains to acrylic stands for their instant breakout star. Meanwhile, back in Arsalan, Jinwoo stands before a full-length mirror admiring his night disguise, completely unabashed about how ridiculously handsome his avatar turned out. But his self-absorbed moment is abruptly shattered when his elf assistant glides into the room without knocking, catching our mastermind completely off guard mid-pose. Rather than breaking character, the elf aide immediately leans into an intense dramatic performance. Whispering close about a tragic traveler consumed by sorrow, she dramatically sweeps across the floor and strikes over-the-top theatrical poses in front of the glass, fully committing to crafting the knight's legend. Framed by romantic roses and intense dramatic flair, her passionate delivery sells the tragic hero concept flawlessly. Jinwoo thoroughly approves of her extreme dedication, well aware that this level of theatrical roleplay will captivate the incoming players and drive maximum engagement. Exhausted by the banter, our mastermind shifts his focus to immediate tactical needs, asking about suitable nearby hunting grounds to rapidly level up the incoming heroes. When she reveals that all viable high-yield monster zones sit beyond the land of erosion, Jinwoo calmly resolves to seize territory directly from the enemy. Stepping onto dark, desolate soil crackling with purple lightning and unchecked magic, the powerful Archmage gazes out over the corrupted landscape with staff in hand. To forge a massive leveling field for 50,000 Earthling heroes, Jinwoo prepares to personally tear through the creeping erosion and claim the realm for humanity. Just like a world-famous luxury watch built from countless precision-crafted parts working in flawless harmony, our boy Leon's body was engineered with that exact same level of insane obsession. Master craftsmen designed a vessel of absolute physical perfection, where every single component functions without the slightest error. Arcelen's master artisan Tiras stacked a staggering 24 high-level magic spells directly onto the paladin. From passive beauty charms that turn dust into flower petals to an emotional radiant halo and a comforting aura, Leon walks around as a walking flex of high-tier magic, blinding everyone nearby. The little elf streamer is completely blinded by his overwhelming aura, drooling helplessly on camera until her live chat donates to roast her awake. Catching herself before she completely ruins her reputation, the streamer girl desperately slaps her own face, trying to snap out of the spell and regain control. Leon steps in with ultimate chivalry, leaning close to check if she was injured in the chaos. Before the elf can even form a coherent sentence, the Golden Knight raises his glowing hand to cast a high-tier recovery spell on the spot, treating a simple fan reaction like a severe crisis. Surging golden light engulfs the streamer completely. She was not even wounded, yet an overwhelming flood of divine magic surges through her entire body, leaving her stunned by the sheer power. Meanwhile, her live chat erupts in utter shock, watching an NPC cast high magic like it is routine. Suddenly, a massive donation hits the broadcast, forcing the streamer girl into a cringe 10-hit wink combo right in front of Leon. The paladin just stares at her bizarre Aegyo routine in total confusion, turning the little elf stone cold with pure, unadulterated embarrassment. Seeing her twist and gasp in utter shame, the Golden Knight sincerely concludes she must have suffered severe head trauma. He immediately reaches for her forehead to cure her brain, making the elf shriek in absolute terror just as a massive 200,001 mission request lands on her stream. Just as the little elf streamer furiously vows to reject her chat's humiliating dares, game director Jinwoo decides to stir the pot from behind the scenes. Operating as the mysterious Great Mage, he drops an absurd 5,000,001 mission donation straight onto her screen. The sudden fortune leaves the archer completely frozen in utter disbelief, unable to process the insane cash drop. Overpowered by sheer financial temptation, the streamer surrenders what little dignity she has left and unleashes a mortifying bunny dance right before the Holy Paladin. As she collapses onto the dirt sobbing in absolute shame, our Golden Knight looks on in quiet awe, genuinely concluding that money is the most terrifying magic in this realm. Still convinced that her erratic behavior is the result of severe head trauma, the righteous warrior gently offers to take her straight to a temple for immediate brain treatment. That hilarious exchange instantly sets the internet ablaze, taking off as the single most viral clip across the entire live streaming platform. Escorting her deep into the moonlit forest, the elf finds herself totally mesmerized by the paladin's absurdly handsome side profile. With flawless chivalry, Leon pauses in his tracks and turns around with a dazzling smile, softly warning his companion to watch her step as they navigate the dark, uneven wilderness. Flustered beyond repair by his overwhelming aura, the little elf stammers helplessly while trying to express her gratitude. Meanwhile, her broadcast chat erupts in wild speculation, utterly convinced that this impossibly high-tier warrior must be a key main quest NPC crafted by the developers. After ensuring they are completely safe from any goblin ambushes, the two finally pause to exchange formal introductions. Introducing himself merely as a wandering traveler named Leon, the Golden Paladin reveals his true mission. He is investigating the world's catastrophic erosion, which is currently mutating local monsters into hyper-aggressive beasts near the city. Analyzing her high sociability stats, Leon confirms the purple goblins roaming the forest are corrupted beasts mutated by the world's deadly erosion. Knowing her outstanding reputation among the locals makes her the ideal leader to organize the player base, the Golden Paladin prepares to deliver a high-stakes request. Reaching out to the elf archer, Leon's formally triggers the realm's very first main raid quest, charging her to recruit a massive subjugation squad of at least 200 warriors. The terrifying raid difficulty and sudden quest pop-ups send the streamer girl into complete shock as she realizes the burden resting on her shoulders. Scanning the surrounding wilderness, casual players remain completely scattered across the countryside, busy picking low-tier herbs and exploring random hills without any unified leadership or real combat direction. Filled with overwhelming resolve, the little elf archer tightly grasps the paladin's hand and vows to complete the grand mission at all costs. With the first major raid officially set in motion, our disguised game director wastes zero time and takes his personal operations straight to the front lines. Charging straight into chaos, the Golden Knight acts as an unstoppable shield, diving into battle to cover overwhelmed adventuring parties from vicious mutated beasts. Swinging his blade with precision, he single-handedly turns fatal monster ambushes into easy victories while shielding every low-level player. From warmly praising hard-working gatherers for their herb harvests to handing out heavy sacks filled with free high-tier potions, Leon relentlessly supports the growing player base. The stunned adventurers clutch their gifts in absolute awe, asking if he will be left with nothing after giving away his entire stash. Flashing a dazzling, radiant smile, the Golden Paladin gently reassures them that as long as he has his brave heroes by his side, no supply or sacrifice is ever wasted. His absolute faith and chivalry instantly strike a deep chord in the hearts of everyone nearby. Back in the real world, online gaming forums immediately overflow with deeply moving testimonials about the Holy Knight's inspiring words, driven by Leon, calling them genuine heroes. Even severe shut-ins find the courage to finally open their doors and face reality for the first time in years. Deeply moved by the Golden Knight's inspiring heroics, severe shut-ins across Earth finally find the courage to open their bedroom doors. Hugging their weeping mothers, they promise to stop hiding like cowards because they have become true heroes now. Returning to the realm of Arcillon with renewed purpose, these inspired players vow to secure real jobs, clear their debts, and selflessly mentor the next wave of fresh adventurers. Back in his real-world office, Jinwoo monitors the explosive surge in player morale with pure satisfaction. Realizing his field operations paid off far better than anticipated, he calculates that the 200-player subjugation squad will assemble in record time. Draping himself in his legendary Great Mage attire, our strategist steps back into Arcillon, fully determined to accelerate the next critical phase of his master plan. Striding into his central command sanctuary, the director is formally greeted by his elf assistant, Tia, who hands over operational reports on their central control apparatus. She confirms the magic tower is now fully synchronized as an intermediary, granting them precise operational control from the facility. Staring into the pulsing blue energy of the proxy core, Jinwoo directly senses the corrupted core of the world's deadly erosion. Reasoning that increased monster encounters will force players to form their subjugation squad even faster, Jinwoo decides to manipulate the front lines. He commands Tia to immediately summon key high-tier NPCs, including Hasman and Halen, straight to the central room. As the confused figures gather to question their sudden summons, our mastermind flashes a sinister, shadowy smirk and reveals their mandatory new task. It is finally their turn to play the role of the raiding goblins. Every world-famous luxury watch is crafted from countless precision parts operating in flawless sync. Designed with painstaking care by master craftsmen, these intricate components work without a single error to create a true masterpiece. Leon's body is constructed on that exact same principle. Forged through the sheer obsession of Arcillon's master artisan Tiras, his physique is layered with 24 distinct tiers of high magic, making him a living, breathing work of art. From passive radiant halos that warp according to an observer's feelings to soothing fragrances, every single spell on his frame is active at once. To anyone looking at him, this paladin radiates absolute perfection. The little streamer archer is instantly blinded by his sheer aura, standing completely frozen with her mouth agape. It takes her live stream chat screaming at her to snap her out of the trance before she completely loses her mind. Before she can get a grip, our boy steps right into her personal space with a glowing smile, asking if she's injured. Without waiting for an answer, he raises his hand to cast a restoration spell just to be safe. A wave of golden magic engulfs her in an instant. Even without any wounds to heal, the overwhelming divine mana surges through her veins, leaving both the archer and her chat completely speechless at the sight of high magic. Overjoyed by a massive 100,000 won donation, the little archer launches into a hyperactive idle reaction, winking furiously for the camera. But Leon just stands there in dead silence, watching her freak out with absolute bewilderment. Concluding that her strange twitching must be the result of severe brain damage, the paladin's face turns deadly serious. He immediately places his glowing hand back on her head to cure her mental trauma, ignoring her panicked screams. As Stream Chat bombards the little archer with paid mission requests to perform an embarrassing bunny dance, she furiously refuses to degrade herself on camera. But watching the chaos from behind the scenes, Jinwoo decides to test her resolve. Utilizing his hidden creator authority, he drops a staggering 5 million won mission donation directly onto her HUD, instantly shattering her resistance and forcing her into a panicked state. Completely overwhelmed by the staggering cash prize, the desperate streamer swallows her pride and launches into the mortifying bunny reaction right in front of the paladin. As she hops around red-faced and buries her head in total embarrassment, our boy stands in silence, marveling at how financial capital can instantly bend anyone's will. Still entirely convinced her erratic twitching is a symptom of severe head trauma, Leon flashes a radiant, heroic smile and offers to escort her to a sacred temple to heal her mind. She screams in utter panic, but this absurd interaction instantly goes viral, becoming the single most watched clip of the year across the entire platform. Escorting her out of the dangerous woods under the night sky, the archer trots closely behind, completely mesmerized by the paladin's heroic physique. Every single step he takes emanates an irresistible passive aura of divine perfection, and when he turns back with a gentle smile to warn her about the rough path, her heart skips a beat. Blushing furiously, she stammers out her thanks while her live stream chat erupts into absolute chaos. Observing his overwhelming stats and noticing he lacks a standard player status window, thousands of viewers immediately draw the obvious conclusion. This unbelievably handsome knight has to be a main story NPC designed for critical questlines. Finally reaching a safe zone beyond the aggressive goblin territory, Leon brings their trek to a halt. The archer bows deeply in gratitude, formally introducing herself as heir. Our boy accepts her bow with flawless knightly decorum, introducing himself simply as a humble traveler, keeping his secret identity as Arskillen's supreme archmage fully concealed. Surveying the dark forest, Leon explains that purple corrupted goblins have breached the region near Ebent, signaling a sinister scheme underway. But while maintaining his knightly demeanor, our boy's eyes flare with high magic as he secretly activates his Archmage authority, scanning the little archer to evaluate her history and determine her true value to his cause. Reading through her interaction logs, Jinwoo notes her exceptional A-rank sociability, realizing she has the charisma needed to lead an expeditionary force. Deciding to make her the center of his operation, he extends his gauntleted hand and generates a high-tier main quest UI directly on her screen, demanding a massive 200-player subjugation squad to purge the corrupted goblins. Heir gasps in total shock at unlocking the server's very first main story quest, but panic immediately sets in. Recruited players are scattered everywhere, gathering herbs or exploring, making a 200-man raid seem almost impossible. Yet driven by her absolute adoration for the noble paladin, she clutches her collar with burning resolve, swearing to fulfill Lord Leon's command. Grasping his steel gauntlet with both hands, the hyperactive archer enthusiastically locks in the contract. With the initial hooks successfully planted in the streaming community, Jinwoo maintains his relentless momentum, marching across the beginner territory in his paladin avatar without taking a single moment of rest to execute the next phase of his plan. Diving directly into active combat zones, our boy charges into battle to cover novice players from ferocious wolf packs. Not stopping at combat support, he travels the fields to assist gatherers, showering a red-haired herbalist with glowing praise for her hard work. His heroic intervention and gentle validation leave every player completely starstruck by his presence. Reaching out to our group of beginners, Leon hands over massive supply sacks filled with valuable potions and items. The adventurers stand speechlessly clutching the gifts, terrified the noble knight will be left empty-handed. But our boy flashes a blinding, radiant smile, assuring them that having such brave heroes by his side is all he needs, instantly sparking viral heartwarming threads across the gaming forums. Inspired by Lord Leon's inspiring words, a formerly shut-in player finally gathers the courage to open her bedroom door and apologize to her weeping mother. Vowing to rebuild her real life while standing as a hero in Arskillen, she logs back into the game while the live streaming community erupts in absolute awe over the noble paladin's life-changing impact. Back in the real world, Jinwoo monitors the surging player morale directly from his desktop computer. Seeing that his paladin persona has successfully united the beginner community and accelerated quest participation, our boy decides it is time to advance the timeline, stepping away from his monitor and striding down the grand stairs of his magic tower as Arskillen's supreme archmage. Striding into the heart of the grand magic sanctuary, the supreme archmage is formally greeted by his loyal high elf assistant, Tia. The massive subterranean chamber hums with immense magical power, centered around a complex control apparatus built to oversee and regulate the magic infrastructure across the entire realm. Tia confirms the system is fully synchronized, using the magic tower as the primary intermediary. Locking directly onto the erosion core through the proxy device, Jinwoo calculates that escalating the corrupted goblin threat will create immediate urgency, driving the player base to assemble their 200-man subjugation squad ahead of schedule. Executing the next phase of his strategy, the Archmage commands Tia to summon key high-level NPCs, including Hasmon and Halon. As the powerful figures assemble inside the chamber, a dark, wicked smirk spreads across Jinwoo's face, declaring with chilling authority that it is finally their turn to play the role of the raid's goblin bosses. Inside the war room, two high-ranking officials aggressively crowd our boy, practically breathing down his neck to demand their next assignment. Jinwoo forces the overeager zealots to step back, insisting they wait for the chief admin Tia. But before he can even turn around, a haunting voice speaks directly into his ear. Tia pops out of the shadows with a demonic, bloodshot glare that sends our chief director leaping back in sheer terror. Furious at everyone constantly invading his personal space, Jinwoo snaps at the elf for giving him a heart attack right inside his own headquarters. The elf chief collapses onto the couch like trash, completely drained. When Jinwoo asks what went wrong, she explodes into a hysterical rage over the sheer chaos caused by the newly summoned players. These unhinged immortals spend all day running around naked, pulling stupid pranks, and harassing her inside the Adventurer Guild. She grabs our boy by the collar, screaming at him to stop wasting precious mana stones on useless achievement titles. The psychological damage spreads across the entire leadership. Halon and Hasmon sit slumped in total despair, revealing that players constantly suspect them of being evil masterminds and goblin bosses purely because of their sinister faces. The atmosphere in the room drops into a heavy cloud of absolute misery. Jinwoo turns to Tiris, who calmly admits she kept quiet just to watch her colleagues suffer in person. Disgusted by her cold attitude, our boy reaches into his coat and pulls out modern video game controllers. He hands them over with a deadpan command. They are going to manually take control of the goblin mobs to force the players into real combat training. Tia recoils in disgust at the thought of piloting filthy trash mobs just to get stomped by earthlings. But Jinwoo hits her with a tactical truth. Since these immortal players respawn infinitely after death, the admins don't need to hold back at all. Hearing that she gets to pulverize the annoying players, Tia's eyes flash with murderous intent as she grips her controller. Intrigued by the sudden prospect of brutal payback, the executives examine the strange devices. Jinwoo gathers everyone around the table and breaks down the controls, explaining how the D-pad handles movement while preset buttons trigger attacks. With the magic tower managing the heavy lifting, the admins prepare to give the players a brutal lesson. Jinwoo projects the live mana feed and orders Chief Tia to take the controller for a test drive. The instant she clicks the buttons, a low-level forest goblin springs forward under her direct mental command. Realizing she now holds ultimate power over the trash mobs, the vengeful elf chief proudly vows to personally bait those annoying earthlings into forming a massive subjugation squad. Seeing her execute smooth battle movements, the rest of the traumatized executives lean in with wide eyes, practically begging for their own turn at bloody payback. Our boy hands out game controllers to the entire War Council, and within seconds, the room erupts into manic laughter. Remotely piloting ugly monsters to stomp the chaotic players transforms their total despair into absolute sadistic joy. Capturing the ridiculous sight, Jinwoo uses his eye interface to snap a photo of his newly motivated admin council and sets it as his phone wallpaper back on Earth. Looking at his screen later with a satisfied grin, our chief director knows his master plan to turn the chaotic players into a disciplined army is officially locked and loaded. Once the players finally clear these enhanced mob camps, they will uncover the shocking reality that erosion forces have breached the realm, officially kicking off Main Story Episode 1. Relaxing at a luxury dining table back on Earth, the master strategist prepares to launch the second wave of SoulLink headset sales right alongside this main story update. Out of nowhere, a heavy silver spoon slams onto the formal dining table with violent force, instantly killing the peaceful atmosphere. In a heartbeat, every high-ranking family member leaps to their feet, trembling as they bow their heads in suffocating silence, while the stern patriarch fixes them with an intense, unreadable glare. Without uttering a single word of explanation, the imposing old man turns on his heel and stomps right out of the grand hall, accompanied by his anxious attendants. Our boy sits there frozen with his spoon mid-air, looking totally baffled as he tries to figure out what just triggered his family's dramatic outburst. Meanwhile, back in the fantasy realm of Arcillon, Jinwoo's tactical genius pays off immediately. Driven completely insane by the admin-controlled goblins, using actual combat tactics and executing perfect backflips, furious earthlings swarm the city square, screaming at the top of their lungs to assemble a massive subjugation raid. Out in the central plaza, enraged players swarm the Adventurers Guild, screaming at top volume to form emergency subjugation squads. After losing 10 hours worth of hard-gathered meat and rare herbs to tactical trash mobs, the players demand immediate payback. Surveying the mass hysteria from above, Jinwoo watches the screaming crowd in complete disbelief, realizing his tactical experiment has triggered utter chaos. Out in the forest hunting grounds, low-level mobs execute high-tier military tactics. Goblins leap into combat with aggressive weapon strikes while spellcasters channel lethal fire magic behind heavy shields. Before the shock-filled earthlings can even process a basic goblin casting magic, a lightning-fast spear impales their armored front line, wiping out player squads with terrifying speed and precision. Back inside the command center, Chief Tia cackles with pure sadistic glee as she grips her game controller. The traumatized executives high-five across the couch over landing lethal combat combos, their sunken, dark-circled eyes glowing with unhinged thrill. Manually piloting hideous monsters to crush their tormentors has transformed their deep psychological trauma into complete, unadulterated revenge. Wrapped in a heavy aura of absolute malice, the entire War Council remains glued to their screens for hours on end without taking a single break. Our boy sweat drops in sheer horror as he watches his high-ranking officials laugh like demonic villains, coming to the grim realization that his council isn't training the players. They are ruthlessly spawn-camping them for sport. Noticing an unexpected status change on the mana feed, Jinwoo leans over Tia's shoulder to inspect the live combat logs. To his utter shock, the system officially granted a single ribbon-wearing goblin the terrifying title of Hero Slaughterer. The bloodthirsty monster stands victoriously atop a towering pile of player corpses, having single-handedly slaughtered dozens of earthlings in rapid succession. Determined to deliver maximum psychological warfare, Tiras reminds Chief Tia to execute their ultimate payback tactic. Grinning with demonic delight, the elf chief activates her controller presets. Her remote-controlled goblin marches over to a freshly defeated earthling lying face down in the dirt and plants its purple foot directly onto the fallen player's head. Without holding back an ounce of disrespect, the mob begins squatting frantically up and down in an undeniable teabagging motion right over the player's head. Watching standard fantasy monsters drop toxic Earth Gamer BM sends nearby Earthlings into an absolute screaming frenzy, igniting unmatched fury across the realm and setting up an epic server-wide raid. Chief Tia erupts into unhinged, villainous laughter as she spams toxic victory moves, completely drunk on cold-blooded payback. Watching his high elf administrator go absolutely mad while remote controlling low-level trash mobs, our master strategist just grins in total satisfaction, knowing this brutal psychological provocation will push the furious earthlings straight over the edge. And his tactical gamble pays off far beyond expectations. Outraged by the humiliating disrespect from basic forest monsters, Earthlings assemble across the realm in record time. A massive, heavily armed subjugation squad swarms the city plaza with raised weapons, completely unified and desperate to unleash absolute payback on the boosted monster camps. Stepping forward to lead the raid, an elite blonde knight fastens his armored combat gloves with a calm, confident smirk. With the chaotic players finally forced to abandon their stupid antics and form a disciplined army, the high-tier warrior rallies his massive force to march out, officially kicking off the realm's first main story campaign. Inside the noisy smithy, the master blacksmith gazes intensely at Uribear, questioning if he truly intends to see this dangerous gamble through to the end. Our stubborn tank just cracks his knuckles with supreme confidence, urging the artisan to start already. Challenged by his nerve, the smith hoists his massive hammer high to launch the enhancement. Sparks burst violently across the anvil as the heavy hammer crashes down, but luck instantly turns cold. The enhancement fails, degrading his iron shield from +4 down to +3. The smith glibly excuses his slipped hand, leaving our big brawler clutching his head and screaming in utter agony over his ruined equipment. The sharp-eyed elf archer Haybile steps into the courtyard and immediately confronts him over his reckless behavior right before their major expedition. She berates his crippling dopamine addiction after 20 failed attempts, but the unhinged warrior refuses to stop, screaming that he needs an even bigger adrenaline hit despite the dismal success odds. Driven wild by the blacksmith's ruthless taunts, Uribear doubles down and bets every resource he owns on one final attempt. The battered shield literally sweats in horror, while Heibayol frantically warns him that shattering his armor right before they march into battle will leave him completely vulnerable to enemy attacks. Before the argument spirals out of control, heavy steel boots ring across the cobblestones. Lord Leon makes his grand appearance, warmly hailing Heibayol and praising her for growing exponentially stronger in such a brief time, while onlookers in the town square whisper in admiration at the noble hero's regal presence. When Heibayol inquires about his visit, Leon explains he personally wanted to check on the village welfare before they set out to exterminate the local goblins. His heartfelt commitment to assisting the frontline heroes shines brightly, leaving the impressionable archer deeply moved by the young lord's radiant charisma and selfless heart. Without warning, our desperate brawler lunges forward and grabs Lord Leon, pleading frantically for the nobleman's personal assistance. A startled Heibayol quickly intervenes to explain that their party's heavy tank is hopelessly hooked on gear enhancement, completely unhinged by his crippling addiction to high-risk equipment gambling. Uribear begs the young lord to stand right beside him as a human lucky charm to sway the forge's brutal odds. Though Heibayol groans in utter disbelief at the sheer absurdity of using nobility for enhancement luck, Master Thompson enthusiastically agrees to give the outrageous gamble another shot. With Lord Leon standing quietly by his side, the frantic tank clasps his hands together in desperate, intense prayer. Sensing the immense pressure hanging over the workshop, the master blacksmith lets out a thunderous battle cry and hoists his heavy iron hammer high into the ambient air. The hammer crashes down with violent force, triggering a blinding pillar of golden light that illuminates the entire forge courtyard. Against all odds, the reckless gamble pays off. The system heralds a miraculous success, upgrading his battered iron shield all the way to a divine +5. Uribear roars in pure, unfiltered ecstasy, celebrating the server's very first +5 shield equipped with god-tier defense stats. He bows repeatedly to Lord Leon in overwhelming gratitude, then turns right around to ruthlessly taunt Heibayol, rubbing his insane luck directly in her infuriated face. Witnessing the undeniable power of Leon's miraculous blessing, Heibayol immediately shoves her own weapon into the young lord's hands, begging for good fortune. When the blacksmith strikes the anvil a second time, lightning strikes twice. Her flowerwood bow instantly leaps straight to +5. As the ecstatic archer leaps for joy, word of the back-to-back miracles spreads like wildfire across the town square. Within seconds, a massive mob of excited adventurers swarms Lord Leon with their weapons, and the benevolent hero gracefully agrees to bless every single one of them. Master Thompson is pushed past his breaking point as an endless mob of greedy adventurers swarms the forge for guaranteed equipment upgrades. See, when Jinwoo first engineered this grand game facade, he burned through all his personal resources to trick Earth's combatants into treating Arsalan's apocalyptic war for survival like a casual online MMORPG. Lord Leon humbly credits the blacksmith's supreme craft, though Uribear sulks after instantly losing his exclusive brag as the server's only +5 shield wielder. Before the mood settles, their party's eccentric musician, romantic bard, happily steps up strumming his lute, unleashing a congratulatory anthem whose horrifyingly screechy pitch instantly tortures the entire courtyard. Despite his unbearable vocals, the party tolerates the bard because his ear-splitting performance acts as an effective sonic weapon, driving local goblin hordes completely insane and forcing them to flee. Observing the chaos, Leon notes that high elves possess hypersensitive hearing, finally realizing why his elf companion was previously unable to hear him over the racket. As the bard plays on, Leon focuses his vision on the glowing soul color surrounding him and stops dead in his tracks. That distinct soul belongs to his own brother from Earth, a frustrated musician who abandoned his career back home, but now possesses an unyielding dream trait. Deeply moved by the revelation, the young lord covers his face. Before Leon can recover his composure, a sharp conflict erupts right in the middle of the crowded cobblestone street. Life Hunting, the arrogant hunter leading the versatile guild, steps into the path of Valhalla's Grand Warrior Master, Grand Duchess of the North, disrespectfully ordering her to keep quiet and claiming it is only natural for a hunting dog to lead. The level 12 hunter flashes a sinister grin, mockingly declaring that he enjoys boiling loud dogs that bark at everything around them. Pushed beyond all patience, the level 11 warrior master lets her violent killing intent flare into the sky, baring her sharp teeth as she aggressively demands an immediate battle to settle their feud once and for all. Lord Leon smoothly steps right between the hostile guild leaders, urging both hot-headed fighters to save their strength for the upcoming goblin raid. But as he inspects their vibrant soul colors, absolute shock strikes him. The arrogant hunter life hunting is actually his grandfather from Earth, while the ferocious warrior master Grand Duchess is none other than his own older sister. Warm memories of his sweet sister serving homemade ramen flood his mind, completely contrasting her current barbarian-like bloodlust. Realizing both relatives somehow accumulated a staggering 1,000 contribution points to found top-tier guilds, our sharp director realizes his wealthy corporate family back home is already actively manipulating the game from behind the scenes. Shifting back into his noble persona, the young lord turns to face the massive army of players filling the forge courtyard. Ear-splitting battle cries erupt across the cobblestones as hundreds of eager combatants raise their weapons high into the sky, roaring with unbridled passion to answer Lord Leon's epic call to arms. Leon personally calls out individual players by their absurd game tags, driving their fanatical loyalty straight through the roof. Tears of ecstatic joy stream down their faces as the recognized warriors break into frantic celebrations, utterly enchanted by their heroic commander's incredible habit of remembering every single soldier. With radiant charisma, Lord Leon humbly asks the assembled crowd if they will grant him the supreme honor of fighting right by their side. The player army roars back in unanimous euphoria, bringing a satisfied smirk to our director's face as his newly forged battalion readies for deployment. The massive stone fortress gates swing wide open, exposing the untamed wilderness beyond. Standing in strict formation, Ebent's elite knights draw their longswords and shout command orders, sending the heavily armed player army marching forward to slaughter every goblin in sight. Ebent's knight commander orders a grand salute, prompting her honor guard to hoist their shining steel blades high into the air. With weapons crossed over the cobblestone pathway, a massive battalion of 802 eager player heroes marches out beneath the fortress gates, roaring for ultimate victory. Flanked by rival guildmasters standing united for the very first time, Lord Leon takes charge at the head of the expedition column. Stepping resolutely forward, our mastermind director leads his newly forged battalion straight toward the land of erosion, fully prepared to purge every monster threatening the realm. The newly summoned Earthlings march across the alien landscape, completely treating this apocalyptic crisis like an open-world MMO. They marvel at the scenery, pass around homemade fruit wine, and even compose heavy metal ballads on the trail without a single worry. Watching his clueless army banter, our former Grand Mage accepts their laid-back attitude, as long as they fight and grow on their own terms. Forcing them into obedience would turn them into mindless puppets. But behind the scenes, his crew is orchestrating an elaborate illusion. Inside the secret control base, the director's staff maxes out the visual effects and buffs the local goblins to mimic authentic quest zone. Villagers clutch game controllers and cheer as our boy gives the order over comms to launch Stage 5 of the event. Instantly, an eerie mist swallows the woods, blinding the expedition party. The players assume it is just another high-budget cutscene designed to ramp up the theatrical tension, chuckling at how authentic the immersive environmental effects feel. Suddenly, dark corruption seeps right through the protective mana barrier. This is no scripted event. Real erosion has hijacked the training grounds as grotesque, purple tendrils surge out of the fog, confirming a hostile entity intercepted their raid. Before anyone can react, a lethal tentacle strikes straight for the leader's throat. Our boy draws his blade just in time, parrying the abyssal whip with a deafening clash as the deadly ambush catches them off guard. Panic erupts through the ranks as the players realize their lives are on the line. Screaming in terror, they retreat while our protagonist steps up to hold the front line against the endless assault of shadowy limbs. Dark abyssal tendrils erupt from every direction, coiling around their feet as sheer terror takes over. Cut off from any clear escape route, the rookie Earthlings freeze in panic, completely defenseless against a deadly threat they never prepped for. Before the archer can even draw her string, massive corrupt limbs slam down from above to crush her where she stands. The lethal assault leaves zero room to dodge, threatening to wipe out the party's backline in one ruthless swipe. Out of nowhere, a fierce burst of golden mana ignites through the dark fog. A radiant shockwave tears through the corrupted mist with overwhelming pressure, detonating instantly to incinerate the enemy's shadow limbs in midair. Stepping up to hold the line, Leon unleashes a divine full-power slash that shatters the earth beneath him. His golden aura completely vaporizes the corrupt vanguard, single-handedly shutting down the ambush before it touches his comrades. As the blinding blast settles, the squad catches their breath and praises their armored paladin for pulling off a clutch rescue. But before anyone can celebrate surviving the wave, the warrior gazes upward, her face instantly turning pale with dread. High above them, the sky bleeds a horrifying crimson as a sinister black sun eclipses the sky. Corrupted mana surges violently through the burning atmosphere, proving this was no script. An authentic catastrophe has just descended upon the realm. Thundering across the blood-red ridge, heavy war drums shatter the silence as hordes of dark-infused goblins scream for blood. The fake game event has completely collapsed, plunging our clueless earthlings straight into a brutal battle for survival. An endless tide of dark-infused goblins floods the ridge, screaming for blood under the eclipsing black sun. Seeing the massive horde cresting over the horizon, our paladin realizes they are completely surrounded with no easy way out. Terror sweeps through the rookie squad as the staggering scale of the invasion sets in. The players scramble in sheer panic, mistaking the nightmare for an unannounced boss event, while their live chat explodes with disbelief. Analyzing the calculated assault, Leon realizes this ambush was no accident. For the enemy to strike with such precise timing and overwhelming numbers, someone inside Ebent must have leaked their operational intel to the dark forces. The corrupted goblin chieftain roars, rallying his army for a full-scale slaughter. But behind the curtain, the control team maxes out the event difficulty, pushing the simulation into overdrive to keep the illusion alive. Faced with thousands of bloodthirsty monsters, the Earthlings freeze, completely overwhelmed. Blaming himself for dragging novice heroes into a lethal catastrophe, our Golden Knight steps to the front to take full responsibility. With a single snap of his fingers, Leon ignites massive teleportation seals beneath the squad. System prompts flash before the players, warning that returning to safety will consume all of the paladin's power while slapping them with heavy death penalties if they fall. As the magical glyphs engulf the party, the panicked archer screams out, realizing Leon intends to stay behind alone. Facing certain death against the horde, our self-sacrificing hero simply offers a soft, reassuring smile as the heroes vanish into the light. Refusing to accept retreat, the Earthlings completely reject the safety of the escape spell. Hyped up for what they believe is a high-stakes boss raid, the squad rallies behind their leader with roaring battle cries, eager to cook some goblin meat and treat the threat like a game. Impressed by their unexpected courage, Leon tests their resolve one final time against the coming slaughter. As the rookie party boldly vows to fight to the very end, our golden paladin raises his blade to the heavens, swearing to protect them no matter the cost. Blinding holy mana erupts from his sword, showering the entire party in a massive divine buff. Feeling unbelievable strength surge through their bodies, the buffed warriors erupt in cheers while Leon aims his blade at the horizon, leading the charge for Arcelon. With unstoppable momentum, the Earthling army charges headfirst down the blood-red ridge. They slam directly into the advancing goblin horde without a single shred of fear, fully immersed in the adrenaline of battle and treating the dark invasion like a glorious server event. Meanwhile, inside the secret control base, the director's staff watches the chaos on their monitors. An elf operator admits the escape portal was secretly programmed to fail, a calculated test designed by their Grand Mage to force the players into embracing their role as protectors. Watching the Earthlings fearlessly cut down corrupted monsters on the battlefield, Lady Tia smiles in total awe. Lord Jinwoo's crazy plan was right all along. These otherworldly gamers possessed the raw spirit and chaos needed to save Arcelon from the nightmare of erosion. Back inside the control room, the elf operator gets swept up in the adrenaline. Gritting her teeth, she furiously mashes her controller to pour maximum support into the fight as the dark goblin horde roars down the ridge. Leading the assault, the Earthling shield unit activates their shield charge technique. Infused with divine mana and boasting about their upgraded gear, the frontliners slam directly into the incoming wave, sending enemy ranks flying in every direction. The frontline devolves into a violent grinding match as dark-infused goblins swarm the defense wall. Taking heavy blows straight to their shields, the warriors grit their teeth and stand their ground, refusing to give up an inch. When one of the shield bearers takes a heavy club hit, a hooded ally quickly rushes in to cover the gap. Vaulting directly off his teammate's raised shield, the striker launches himself high into the air. Soaring above the chaos, he channels his momentum into a high-angle strike, diving straight toward the center of the enemy horde. Bringing his blade down with a roaring battle cry, a massive golden shockwave erupts across the battlefield. The radiant surge tears clean through the monster formation, vaporizing corrupted goblins in an explosive burst of divine light. The explosive golden blast detonates right across the battlefield, completely tearing through the monster lines and leaving scorched goblin corpses littered across the shattered earth. Watching his brave new allies crush the vanguard, Leon tightens his grip as divine lightning surges around his blade. Our paladin proudly swears to protect these otherworldly heroes to his very last breath, standing firm as an unbreakable shield against the abyss. The bloodthirsty warriors of Valhalla charge headfirst into the war zone. Driven by their commander's ferocious war cry, the entire vanguard charges forward without a single second of hesitation, ready to tear apart the incoming enemy force. At the tip of the spear, our red-haired berserker cleaves through the front lines with pure savagery. She spins her massive battle axe with lethal precision, carving open an immediate path of destruction directly through the front rank. The weight of her strike shatters enemy defenses in a single violent blow, crashing through bone and armor like paper. When a hideous purple goblin attempts to ambush her up close, she doesn't back down for a second. Our girl meets the beast head-on with a brutal, skull-crushing headbutt that slams the creature dead into the dirt. Another monster lunges toward her unprotected side, screaming for blood. But before it can strike, a sharp-eyed archer plants an arrow directly between its eyes, stopping the ambush dead in its tracks. With the threat eliminated, the duo shares a quick high five right in the middle of the chaotic slaughterhouse, keeping their battle momentum sky-high. Over on the flank, the blonde commander takes charge, roaring at top volume for the ranged unit to lock onto target. On her command, a massive barrage of arrows flies into the sky, raining straight down onto the advancing horde. Among the marksmen, the elven archer Heir pulls back her bowstring with dramatic flair, striking a distinct pose on the front line. Predictably, the livestream chat erupts with ruthless roasting over her ridiculous archery stance, completely distracted by her form. The flustered general screams at her troops to cut the chatter and stay focused. In an instant, the backline mages step up and launch a devastating volley of fireballs, wind cutters, and magic missiles right into the front line. The initial spell bombardment incinerates the frontline goblins in a brutal flash of fire, but their tactical momentum stalls instantly. The backline mages begin panicking as their mana reserves drain away at a lethal pace, leaving them completely defenseless against the overwhelming numbers. Witnessing the sudden crisis, the team's bard steps straight to the front to perform a high-stakes battlefield anthem. The second he strums his instrument, a surging whirlpool of red and blue energy violently erupts around him, catching every surrounding spellcaster completely off guard. The mages quickly realize that playing his music constantly restores his own HP and mana pools to full capacity. Capitalizing on his absurd passive ability, the casters lock onto Romantic Bard and siphon his infinite energy, transforming their backline into an unstoppable magic battery. Supercharged by an endless stream of mana, the Vanguard turns the battlefield into a violent meat grinder. Weapons slice through flesh as the players aggressively push the front line forward, convinced that complete victory over the Goblin Horde is finally within their grasp. Just as the tide turns in their favor, a devastating impact shatters the earth and launches shockwaves across the front line. Emerging from the crater with bloodthirsty intent comes a legendary threat, the terrifying goblin boss, Hero Slaughterer, who has descended directly onto the battlefield. Radiating a sinister purple aura of pure destruction, the monstrous commander slams his massive polearm into the ground with catastrophic force. The violent shockwave rips through the vanguard, crushing defenses and sending warriors flying as total slaughter threatens to break the raid. Real terror strikes the battlefield as sinister purple corruption suddenly reanimates the slaughtered goblins right where they fell. Breathing back to life with dark magic, the undead horde surges forward in a relentless second wave, violently pushing back the front line and shattering the players' morale in an instant. Defenses collapse entirely across the vanguard as the revived monsters launch a brutal massacre. Hero after hero gets cut down in rapid succession, causing the system's live survival counter to plummet from over 600 all the way down to 500 in mere seconds. Refusing to let the entire raid break, Lord Leon leaps straight into the breach to draw the monster's aggro. Drawing his greatsword, he meets the Hero Slaughterer head-on, engaging the ferocious goblin commander in a high-stakes duel as the beast snarls back with bloodthirsty intent. Channeling a surge of high-voltage lightning through his blade, Leon swings with devastating speed. His electrifying strike cuts straight through the boss's armor and flesh, bisecting the Hero Slaughterer in a single lethal strike that sends its severed corpse crashing onto the dirt. The surrounding players erupt into triumphant cheers, believing the boss raid is finally secured. But their victory is short-lived as jagged bursts of dark purple energy violently erupt from the slain commander's corpse, tearing through the air. To everyone's utter horror, the dark purple aura knits the severed monster completely back together. The hero slaughterer stands back up with an evil chuckle, fully restored and leaving Lord Leon and his allies frozen in absolute disbelief against an unkillable threat. Spotting a massive black pillar summoning endless revivals, our party identifies the core powering the entire army. Refusing to let the infinite horde grind them down, the elf warrior rallies her allies to shatter the source once and for all. Naming the objective is one thing, but reaching it is suicide. Without a second thought, Lord Leon nods and spearheads a desperate charge straight into the heart of enemy lines, backed by his brave strike team. As the beastly mob surges forward to crush them, the blonde swordmaster channels high-voltage lightning directly into his blade. Flipping mid-air, he unleashes an apocalyptic electric wave that obliterates the goblin front lines in a single blinding flash. With a corridor blasted wide open straight to the pillar, the strike team surges down the cleared path at top speed, determined to reach the target before the horde can close the gap. But an airborne monster dives out of the sky for a sudden ambush on their archer. Lord Leon throws his body into the line of fire, shielding his ally and taking a severe blow to his shoulder before instantly cutting the creature down. The brutal impact forces the swordmaster to one knee as dark energy coils around his body. Gritting his teeth through the burning pain, he commands his panicked team to keep pushing forward without him. Frontline tankers lock shields to block the relentless swarm with their own bodies, buying precious seconds as surviving heroes drop below 200. Out of mana and pushed to their absolute limits, the backline casters prepare for a violent final stand. Desperate backline mages detonate a massive mana explosion across the field, incinerating waves of advancing monsters. But the goblin horde pushes through unabated, crashing against collapsing defenses as the system's survival counter plummets down to a terrifying 42 remaining warriors. Realizing their window of opportunity is closing fast, the veteran archer screams the strike team to make a final push toward the target. Stepping straight into the line of fire, Heir pulls back her bow and channels green energy for a high-output spirit arrow. Her radiant energy shot tears through the enemy vanguard, blasting goblins into the air and clearing a narrow corridor. With a confident smirk, the elven archer deliberately draws the entire swarm onto herself, sacrificing her life so her allies can push past the horde. With Heir overwhelmed and the living hero counter crashing down to just 2 survivors, the veteran marksman yells at the red-haired berserker not to let Leon's sacrifice go to waste. Gritting her teeth through the bloody chaos, the berserker roars back in agreement. Rallying their last reserves of stamina, the surviving duo launches themselves into the sky together in a desperate final assault. Piercing through the crimson aura, they drive her massive battle axe and his blades straight into the heart of the red crystal core. Deep crack spiderweb across the red core before the crystal violently shatters into pieces, detonating in a massive eruption of dark magic across the battlefield. As energy swirls around them, the veteran archer roars out in triumph, confirming the core's total destruction. Just as the surviving warriors celebrate their heroic victory, a dark green portal violently tears open behind them. A skeletal claw reaches through the vortex, instantly crushing their hope before the dust even settles. Staring back in sheer disbelief, our exhausted fighters come face to face with a terrifying skeletal lich. Burning red eyes flare from beneath its hood as the Nightmare Commander sinisterly declares that their real battle is just starting. Without warning, the towering skeletal overlord descends upon the battlefield, radiating a terrifying pressure that suffocates the air. Mocking the squad as mere vermin, the undead tyrant raises his skeletal hand and charges a colossal sphere of destructive green magic, intent on obliterating every last remnant of light. The apocalyptic spell expands overhead like a falling moon, threatening to annihilate the entire party in a single strike. Looking up in absolute panic, the archer and warrior realize their standard defenses don't stand a chance against an attack of this catastrophic magnitude. Refusing to let his party get wiped out, Leon springs into action without a second thought. Throwing his body directly into ground zero, the brave commander flares his golden holy aura, putting his own life on the line to shield his teammates from direct impact. The cataclysmic blast detonates with deafening violence, shattering the surrounding terrain into airborne debris. Even with his divine barrier tanking the full brunt of the energy wave, the tremendous pressure forces blood from Leon's mouth as he desperately clings to consciousness. As the blinding dust clears, Leon's body reaches its absolute limit and he drops heavily to his knees. Horrified by their leader's critical state, his comrades rush to support him, but they have no time to check his injuries. Mocking their pathetic struggle, the arrogant skeletal lord chuckles at their stubborn refusal to die. Snapping his bony fingers, he slams a glowing summoning circle into the dirt, commanding his vanguard to ruthlessly wipe out the helpless survivors. Instantaneously, a massive dark ogre armed with a deadly spiked club materializes from the spell portal, towering over the exhausted archer with terrifying killer intent. With Leon down and their defenses broken, the party faces instant annihilation. Refusing to abandon their fallen commander, Leon's loyal squad mates place their hands on his shoulders and stand firm against the suffocating aura. Coughing up blood from the brutal blast, the battered leader wipes his bloody chin and grips his sword with fierce resolve, proving that their fight is far from over. Ignited by their captain's unyielding spirit, the party lets out a deafening war cry and roars directly into the teeth of danger. With swords raised and arrows notched, the brave trio charges forward as one, putting their lives on the line to face the tyrant's deadly vanguard head-on. The colossal ogre responds with terrifying violence, raising its massive spiked club overhead and bringing it down in a ruthless overhead smash. Explosive shockwaves rip through the cavern as the squad desperately parries the crushing blows, all while thousands of real-world spectators watch the high-stakes battle unfold on a live broadcast. Back on Earth, stream viewers slam their desks in absolute frustration, furious that the game developers are about to wipe out the entire server party. Helplessly watching the bloody fight from their rooms, gamers kick themselves for doubting the pre-order and failing to secure a VR headset in time. Suddenly, a glowing divine prompt flares across every monitor and smartphone screen in the real world. The goddess Ella officially calls upon future heroes for aid, and within seconds, people everywhere, from private gaming setups to packed subway commuters, instantly hit yes to send their power straight to the battlefield. Just as the titanic ogre rears back to crush the wounded commander once and for all, brilliant golden particles erupt around the monster's body. Channeling the overwhelming support of thousands of real-world players, divine magic floods the cavern, setting up an epic turn of events right on the brink of annihilation. Golden holy light suddenly erupts across the monster's body, searing its flesh and stopping the deadly strike cold. The squad watches in disbelief as divine flames burn through the creature, wondering where this sudden miracle is coming from. Channeling the sacred energy overhead, Leon reveals that Goddess Ella has summoned the collective willpower of heroes across realms. She staked everything to bring them here, seeing their unyielding resolve to stand against total world annihilation when everyone else ran. Raising his voice to the sky, our commander pleads for the strength to spark an impossible comeback. Reinvigorated by his words, his squad mates roar back with fierce grins, declaring they have got his back no matter the cost. Seeing divine light flood the battlefield, the skeletal tyrant flies into a panic. Flaming green magic blazes in his eyes as he vows to slaughter every last living soul before this sacred power can fully awaken. Before the tyrant can move, a veiled holy goddess manifests in brilliant light, declaring that a wretched beast has no right to touch her champions. Above the battlefield, a giant divine sun expands overhead, locking the skeletal lord in place with absolute dread. A celestial pillar of light strikes down from the heavens, engulfing the undead lord in a catastrophic beam of divine energy. Trapped inside the holy furnace, the skeletal overlord screams in agony as his dark magic disintegrates into ash. As the smoking remains of the tyrant plummet to the earth below, the divine maiden floats in the sky framed by a radiant halo. Looking down at the exhausted party, she softly commends the brave warriors for enduring the nightmare. Introducing herself as Aerie, a humble servant of Lady Ella, the saintess reveals that the party's unwavering courage served as a beacon to guide her onto the battlefield. Commander Leon kneels in deep respect, but his battle-worn comrade worries whether their remaining firepower is truly enough to finish off the enemy. Saintess Aerie immediately cuts the introductions short, warning that their fight is far from over as the tyrant growls with bloody malice. Though they dealt a heavy blow, the saintess candidly admits their current party lacks the raw numbers for victory, leaving the panicked warrior fearing they remain utterly screwed. Refusing to let the party succumb to despair, Aerie raises her hands to draw upon the divine power gifted by future heroes across realms. Massive golden magic arrays instantly ignite beneath the feet of Leon and his allies, leaving the battle-hardened commander stunned by the sudden surge of sacred energy. Channeling the light of miracles, the saintess casts a sweeping mass resurrection spell over the entire zone. Engulfed in sacred golden flames, the fallen elf archer opens her eyes in complete disbelief, leaving her squad mates gasping in shock as she rises back to her feet fully restored. The divine miracle surges across the entire cavern. Glowing magic circles ignite in every direction as hundreds of fallen players materialize back to life, cheering hysterically as the player count shoots past 200, and their wipeout is completely reversed in an instant. As the revive counter rapidly skyrockets over 800, overjoyed players shout their gratitude toward the real-world stream viewers who voted to save them. Standing alongside an unstoppable army of fully resurrected heroes, our commander praises the Saintess as the party prepares to crush whatever darkness remains. With over 6 million real-world viewers sponsoring their survival, divine magic surges across the battlefield like an unstoppable tidal wave. Reinvigorated by the sacred miracle, the massive army of resurrected players erupts into deafening war cries, charging straight into the monster horde to defend Arsalan at all costs. Watching this chaotic horde of revived gamers aggressively storm past him, Commander Leon stands completely stunned by the glorious turn of events. Throwing back his head in absolute disbelief, our battle-hardened leader bursts into hysterical laughter at the sheer madness, ready to join the unstoppable charge. Meanwhile, far away at the Magic Tower, the catastrophic surge of millions of real-world calculations completely overloads the central mana core. With processing limits shattered and illusionary barriers on the verge of total collapse, the ruthless elf supervisor takes drastic measures, forcefully plugging high-voltage mana cables directly into her mages' heads to manually force the calculations through. Forcing her staff to convert heavy smoke into simple light particles, the mages strain to keep the world server from blowing apart. Exhausted by the astronomical energy consumption, the elf coordinator sighs in utter disbelief, realizing she is going to need an entire legion of magic engineers just to survive their next big update. The giant red-skinned boss roars with fury, smashing its heavy weapon into the ground and scattering the raid party with massive shockwaves. Warriors crash into the dirt as dust fills the battlefield, but our blue aura fighter charges right back into the lethal danger. Seeing her allies falter, the Saintess clasps her hands in prayer, releasing a blinding wave of holy healing across the area. The fallen players spring back to their feet fully restored, roaring in triumph as they rush forward to tear into the monster. With the front line pinning the beast, the Magic Squad unloads everything they have. A barrage of fiery explosions detonates across the creature's back before a massive lightning strike crashes down, leaving the giant monster roaring in pure agony. Suddenly, a sinister lich wrapped in dark robes enters the fray, launching a lethal sphere of green magic to obliterate the attackers. But the Saintess steps in without hesitation, creating a radiant golden barrier to neutralize the threat. The lich's dark spell explodes violently against her holy barrier, sending intense heat and shockwaves tearing across the battlefield. The vanguard braces against the blast, left in awe by the Saintess's incredible defensive power. Floating high above the action, she urges the army to keep advancing while she holds off the enemy's spells. The players cheer for their holy savior as an intense surge of energy fills their bodies, leaving them hyper-energized and strangely euphoric. Behind her veil, a wicked smile reveals sharp fangs and heart-shaped eyes, exposing her true identity as a succubus. She unleashes Breath of Charm, an insidious skill that sacrifices her allies' mental resistance to grant them terrifying physical stamina. Beneath the battlefield, Pope Halen sweats profusely as he desperately converts Ares' corrupting demonic aura into radiant holy light. Convinced this nightmare is a sacred trial forced upon him by fate, the last pope of the realm strains every nerve to maintain the holy facade before the soldiers realize their Saintess is a demon. Pushing his body and spellcasting to the absolute limit, Halen roars as he stack buffs the frontline fighters while Aerie continues channeling her sinister magic. The double-layered enhancement surges through the vanguard, compelling the hyper-energized players to unleash an overwhelming all-out assault on the towering beast. Supercharged by the unholy buffs, a fierce red-haired berserker leaps into the air with a deafening war cry. She brings her massive weapon down in a violent vertical strike, cleaving straight through the giant monster's skull in one terrifying display of physical force. The giant monster screams in pure agony as blood erupts from its split head. Its massive body crashes hard into the shattered terrain before rapidly dissolving into clouds of dark dust, leaving nothing behind on the bloodied battlefield. Seeing the giant behemoth crumble into ash, the raid party erupts into triumphant roars of victory. Players raise their weapons high in celebration, while global stream viewers flood the chat system, stunned by the sheer quality of the battle. However, the lethal encounter is far from over. Outraged by the destruction of his precious monster, the sinister lich steps forward with roaring blue magic. He focuses his hatred directly on Prince Leon, swearing to personally erase the final remaining trace of the royal bloodline from the world. Observing the face-off from behind the scenes, Jinwoo grins slyly at the tense standoff. He offers to turn up the magical special effects for Leon, preparing to manipulate the battlefield once more to ensure a cinematic finale. Behind the scenes, Jinwoo's system operator cackles with pure glee as he executes the command, instantly cranking the custom special effects up to absolute maximum. A surge of exaggerated visual enhancements floods the battlefield, wrapping the encounter in spectacular light while the sinister Lich channels its deadly spell. Determined to shatter the undead threat, Prince Leon holds his longsword toward the sky, calling upon the collective light of everyone gathered on the field. Radiant golden flames erupt from his blade, illuminating the entire war zone as the young royal readies himself for an all-out clash. Without a moment's hesitation, Leon launches into action, slicing through the enemy's green magic barrage with surgical precision. Flipping effortlessly through the air, our boy swoops down like a hawk, bringing his glowing sword down in a punishing vertical strike that tears straight into the monster's defenses. The pair collide mid-air in a chaotic flurry of steel and dark sorcery. Leon locks blades against razor-sharp skeletal claws, gritting his teeth as he forces his golden edge past the beast's guard, unleashing a rapid succession of brutal strikes that shatter the Lich-corrupted barrier. Watching from the sidelines, the rest of the raid party can only stare in complete disbelief at the unbelievable duel unfolding before them. Lightning-fast shockwaves and golden sword arcs carve across the shattered ground, giving the global stream audience a breathtaking show of pure martial dominance. Pushed to the absolute brink, the enraged Lich concentrates every remaining drop of dark energy into a monstrous green orb. Screaming with utter hatred, the undead sorcerer roars that it is finally time to end their cursed fate, preparing to obliterate Prince Leon once and for all. As massive chunks of shattered earth rain across the chaotic battlefield, Prince Leon bounds off the rocky terrain and vaults high into the air. Our boy channels every remaining drop of his stamina into one definitive aerial assault, positioning himself directly above the undead sorcerer to crush its final stand. Raising his sacred longsword high toward the sky, the young royal focuses his golden aura until the blade ignites with blinding divine fire. With an unyielding roar, Leon drives his weapon downward, unleashing a colossal column of radiant energy that tears through the battlefield and illuminates the entire horizon. Caught dead in the center of the divine inferno, the sinister Lich roars in pure torment as radiant holy light burns straight through its dark armor. The sacred flames consume the monster's skeletal body, shattering its corrupted barriers and leaving the creature screaming in helpless agony. Desperate to escape complete annihilation, the dying monster cries out to the emissary of the abyss for immediate salvation. A swirling void rift tears open behind the beast, allowing the Lich to retreat into the darkness while cackling maniacally and swearing bitter vengeance against Prince Leon before disappearing into the abyss. As the blinding explosion finally subsides, the thick dust clears to reveal the young royal standing victorious amidst the scorched earth. Watching from the sidelines, the stunned raid party stares in utter disbelief, completely awestruck by the sheer destructive force that just turned the tide of battle. A shimmering wave of holy light sweeps across the realm, instantly dissolving the dark erosion clouds to reveal a crystal-clear night sky and a glowing full moon. Seeing the corrupted land return to its natural state, the ecstatic players erupt into loud cheers, celebrating the complete purification of the zone. With the fierce battle finally drawn to a close, Prince Leon sheathes his longsword and proudly declares total victory to his comrades. The hyper-energized players erupt into wild screams of triumph, raising their weapons high into the air as they celebrate their massive experience gains and the successful clearance of the territorial boss raid. As the purified sky shines down on the newly liberated territory, Leon gazes up at the moonlit night with quiet relief. With the regional erosion curse officially shattered from the realm, the young royal knows the ancient gates of Arsalan will now open wider, paving the way for countless new heroes to join their ranks. Back on Earth, the breathtaking raid broadcast triggers utter chaos across online gaming communities worldwide. Pre-orders for the revolutionary Soul Link VR headsets sell out in mere seconds, driving desperate gamers across the globe to book immediate flights to South Korea just to secure a unit before inventory completely dries up. Meanwhile, back in the safety of Ebent, the game director observes the roaring crowd while carefully reviewing his secret scenario guide. His operational playbook details a ruthless four-step strategy. Make players fall hopelessly in love with Arsalan before hurling them into soul-crushing despair to maximize their absolute emotional attachment. Closing his notebook with a sinister smile, Jinwoo gets ready to set the stage for the next major chapter of his grand project, slyly questioning which unsuspecting NPC will be placed on the chopping block next. The announcement of Korea-exclusive Soul Link pre-orders triggers an absolute global frenzy. World-famous pop stars suddenly cancel their world tours to stay in Seoul. Global titans flood through Incheon Airport with heavy security, and legendary billionaires camp outside fast food joints right across from FS Games headquarters. When journalists corner legendary investor Ryan Belfit over his desperate stunt, the old billionaire snaps back that cash means nothing to Lee Jin-woo. Staking the rest of his life on this single opportunity, Belfit declares that FS Games will soon command the entire New World Order. Yet Belfit never receives his audience with the mastermind. High inside headquarters, Jin-woo monitors the final hour remaining before server maintenance. On the central monitor, Ebent Square is packed to the brim with anxious players preparing for a grueling one-week lockout. Praising his team for surviving the high-pressure early access launch, our game director distributes massive bonuses, sparking instant cheers across the office. Leaving final shutdown procedures to his chief director, the little mastermind heads directly to the lab to prepare his next move. At that same time inside Arsalan, native NPCs crowd Ebent Square to see off their immortal champions. A proud player boasts about reaching level 13, only for Lady Hyena to ruthlessly trash her terrible swordsmanship, leaving the fanatical warrior blushing in absolute delight. Over near the fountain, eager adventurers corner the holy saintess, begging to visit her church for private play. Though she stammers nervously at first, her saintly facade instantly turns into a sinister, heart-eyed obsession, leaving her devoted fans completely mesmerized. Meanwhile, resourceful gamers make full use of Arsalan's hyper-realistic physics engine. By sizzling thick slabs of pork belly directly on top of heavy combat shields pot lid style, the players host a legendary final feast to celebrate the end of an epic trial run. Sampling the player's shield-grilled pork belly, the native locals are utterly blown away by the incredible flavor. This crazy, improvisational feast turns into an instant sensation across Ebent Square, giving human gamers and native NPCs a rare moment of joy to celebrate together right before server shutdown. Monitoring the crowd from above, our mastermind steps out as Lord Leon to deliver his grand farewell address. The crowd erupts into deafening cheers as their noble grandmaster praises every brave warrior for their tactical brilliance and unstoppable courage during the recent Goblin subjugation campaign. Sobbing uncontrollably, fanatical players lock hands and beg their beloved commander never to forget their names. But Leon quickly steps in to dry their tears, assuring the hysterical legion that no character progress will be reset and their heroic bonds will remain permanently preserved. Scrambling to send last-second friend requests, players brace for the painful week-long lockout ahead. With a reassuring smile from Lord Leon promising to await their return, blinding blue magic circles flash across Ebent Square, instantly logging out every single Earthling and leaving the city completely vacant. In a split second, absolute silence washes over the empty central square. Stretching out their weary limbs, the native NPCs exhale heavy sighs of relief, admitting it feels incredibly strange returning to the peaceful stillness that dominated Arsalan before the noisy, chaotic immortals first arrived. Snapping straight back into commander mode, the little general claps his hands to rally his staff for full-scale launch preparations. But his high elf assistant immediately hits him with a critical logistical crisis. The Magic Tower's mana reserves were utterly drained from maintaining hyper-realistic effects and underground combat operations during the war. With 50,000 fresh recruits arriving at official launch, Arsalan's core system faces total energy exhaustion unless our boy secures a massive magical power source immediately. Breaking down the math, the high elf assistant drops an absolute bombshell on the executive staff. If they can pull off a miracle within the next week, Arsalan can support a mind-blowing 150,000 heroes, provided they hunt down and recruit the legendary demonic dragon, Helvi, to serve as their ultimate living mana core. Back in ancient times, Hela Violani Ursig was a world-ending calamity that waged ruthless war against goddess Ella herself, robbing and cursing anyone who even dared speak her name. But after taking severe damage from the relentless erosion, the once godlike dragon lost her supreme authority, becoming a wounded hermit hiding deep inside crystal caverns. Recognizing the ancient dragon as a walking magic tower with mana reserves and processing power that completely eclipse human limits, our boy realizes her raw energy is the only thing that can power the massive structural overhauls and expansion Ebent urgently requires before official launch. Hearing about the insane energy cost to renovate the city, the guildmaster grins wildly and pitches a completely psychotic shortcut. Nuke Ebent to ashes right before the player's eyes, fake major NPC deaths, pin all the blame on the erosion, and force grief-stricken gamers to rebuild the entire city from scratch. Completely horrified by her dark theatrical obsession with psychological trauma, the little mastermind quickly pulls the staff back to sanity. While a tragic event would certainly drive player motivation through the roof, orchestrating a high-tier event like that still hinges entirely on bringing Helvi into the fold first. When his assistant suggests visiting the dragon in his fragile Leon avatar, our general snaps back that taking a weak body near an ancient monster is outright suicidal. Stepping up his tactical prep, Lil Bro orders his staff to mobilize a terrifying heavy-duty anti-Helvy combat body engineered specifically for brute force dragon slaying. Reassuring him that his avatar can survive the encounter, the High Elf assistant sends her commander out on the dangerous recruitment mission. Arriving outside the jagged mountain entrance, Lil Bro decides to enter as Lord Leon, confident that if negotiations collapse, his high-tier movement spells will let him escape unharmed. Examining the perimeter, our mastermind notes that multiple ancient barriers still fortify the cavern entrance, despite failing against the erosion. Paying no mind to the lingering wards, Jinwoo steps directly through the crackling magic wall, descending into a subterranean hall glittering with massive purple crystal formations. Slumbering atop a massive mountain of hoarded gold coins, the ancient dragon lets out a low, menacing growl that shakes the entire cavern floor. Stepping forward into the dim light with a tense sweat drop, our boy flashes a tight smile and drops an absurdly casual greeting on the sleeping Calamity. Instantly recognizing the aura of a human mage, Helvy recoils in pure disgust and rears up her massive scaled neck. Shaking the cavern walls with her deafening roar, the ancient beast berates his absolute nerve for invading her sanctuary alone, instantly shutting down his attempt to negotiate. Refusing to listen to another word, the ancient dragon lunges downward with open jaws, determined to rip the arrogant intruder to shreds. As deadly teeth snap through the air, Lil Bro curses his luck and executes a razor-thin retreat, realizing his weak avatar barely dodged an instant execution. Recognizing that peaceful dialogue is off the table, the little general reaches for his sword hilt to defend himself by force. Fueled by centuries of absolute hatred, Helvy surges forward to smash that insufferable mage into dust, roaring at him to brace for annihilation. Yet mid-charge, the terrifying monster suddenly freezes as her slit-pupil eye locks onto his face. Bathed in an unbelievable blinding Bishounen sparkle, Lord Leon grits his teeth in a heroic battle pose, leaving the ancient dragon completely paralyzed in utter disbelief. Stunned into complete silence by Lord Leon's unbelievable charm, the terrifying ancient dragon abruptly halts her lethal assault mid-air. Admitting that speaking in her massive true form is inconvenient, the ancient Calamity engulfs herself in crackling purple magic, transforming into a striking horned dragon woman right before his eyes. Our mastermind stands frozen in utter shock, keeping his sword raised in a defensive stance as the legendary monster lands gracefully on the cavern floor. What was supposed to be a desperate, brutal dragon fight suddenly shifts into a surprisingly smooth setup to secure Arsalan's missing mana core. Striding forward with total confidence, Helvy flashes a sharp, predatory grin and orders the young commander to feel deeply honored. Granting the handsome intruder special permission to gaze upon her magnificent human form, the demonic dragon finally opens the floor for his long-awaited proposal.